Rochelle Mayfield is suing her daughter's ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Salvador Ruiz, for wrecking her Hyundai Sonata while driving drunk.
Miss Mayfield, this is your daughter?
Yes.
And this used to be her boyfriend?
Yes.
Does she live at home?
Yes.
Who else lives at home?
My husband and my 2 granddaughters.
Her children?
Yes.
How old are her children?
One is 7 and one is 5.
Where's their father?
He is their
That's
father.
me, Your Honor.
That would be you. So this is what this case is about, Mr. Ruiz. You borrowed Miss Mayfield's car. You got the car from your former girlfriend.
Yes.
You had an accident with the car. The car was damaged to a point where it cannot be driven. And Miss Mayfield would like you to pay for the car, right?
Yes.
And you said, don't look at me. She gave me permission to drive the car.
That's correct.
You ready?
I'm ready.
You think he's ready?
He's not ready.
You think he'll ever be ready?
We'll see.
How old are you, Mr. Ruiz?
23.
Did you and Miss Mayfield's daughter ever live together?
We lived on our own for a while prior to moving in with Rochelle and her husband. And shortly after the accident, due to disputes and conflicts, we decided that we would split up.
What kind of work do you do?
Install carpet.
How much money do you earn a year?
We get paid by the yard per job that we do.
Mr. Ruiz, you're supposed to know how much you earn a year, sir.
I don't always make the same every year.
How much did you make last year?
More or less about $25,000.
Is that what you reported on your tax returns?
No, I did not.
What did you report on your tax returns?
I did not do my tax returns.
Did you get a special dispensation from somebody not to file tax returns, Mr. Ruiz?
See, I'm a subcontractor, and
Subcontractors don't file tax returns? I have to check that out in the U.S. Code. I wonder what section of the U.S. Code it says that subcontractors don't file tax returns.
Whoever's in charge, whoever's our boss,
never going to be ready.
They get the check, and then they have to split it up between, they then pay their workers, their subcontractors who they have working for them.
And I assume that you've been doing this work for the past several years, so you've never filed tax returns.
No, I haven't.
I knew it was going to get good. I knew. Everybody who works pays taxes. They file tax returns.
Right.
April 15th of every year, everybody scurries to the post office, signs their name, and puts a check in the mail. Sometimes you get a check back. The boss doesn't pay taxes. If you're an independent contractor, you pay your own taxes.
No, our supervisor, that's his duty to take care of, to file for, I think, quarterly taxes, he calls it, which we have to then pay, but then it's taken out from when we get paid from our checks.
Oh.
No, it's not an O. That's not an O. It's a duh. There's a difference between an O and a duh.
You said dope.
Mr. Ruiz, I assume that you've seen me on television before, sir.
From time to time,
right?
yes, Your Honor.
Do you think I'm an intelligent person?
Yes, I think you are.
You wouldn't think that I would lie to you, right? And if you think that I wouldn't, maybe would lie to you, maybe because I may not like you for some reason, you don't think that he would lie to you, right?
I don't think that at all.
Tell him. What'd you tell him?
You have to pay taxes.
And you have to file tax returns, even if you don't owe any money. That way, when she takes you to court for support, she'll know exactly how much you're earning, right? All right, now, Mr. Ruiz, you want to explain to me, sir, before the IRS comes after you, why, sir, you don't owe Miss Mayfield the value of her car that you wrecked?
On the night of the accident, which was Sweetest Day.
Which is what?
Sweetest Day.
Sweetest?
Sweetest Day. Basically, we had a conversation about it earlier. It's probably been around about 30 years. Seemed to have just appeared maybe 9 years ago. We chalk it up as a Hallmark holiday.
Similar to Valentine's Day.
Right.
Myself and her daughter Brandy, we had plans to go out that night. She blew me off to go out with her friends. Later that night, after she found out her friends blew her off to be with their boyfriends and whatnot, she told me, okay, well, now we can go out and, do whatever you wanted to do. I was upset with the fact that she had blown me off to begin with. So I explained to her that, I don't want to...
So you didn't explain to her. You said, I'm not going with you. And what did you do?
No, I did explain to her. I told her my reason as to why I didn't want to go with her anymore.
Right. I'm not second choice. I'm
not
second choice or third choice.
Right. I wanted her to know that.
Come on.
So I told her I was
the
going out by
IRS is
myself.
almost at your door.
I told her I was going to go out by myself. She said, okay, here's the keys, go ahead. I went out to a bar, I had a couple drinks.
When did you go out? At what time?
It was...
When did he go out? What time?
It had been around 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. What time did you get home?
a little bit before 12.
So you were gone for 3 hours?
Right.
And what bar did you go to for this 3 hours?
A bar and a restaurant called The Brat.
There with?
By myself.
So you weren't even talking to anybody?
No, well, the bartender.
Just the bartender?
That's, I mean, he was wondering
And then
why.
you had an accident coming home and and your car went in the ditch?
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm still waiting for the explanation, sir, of why you're not responsible for this accident after you had had an evening of drinking and were driving somebody else's car.
Well, I was struck by another vehicle. That's what caused me to go onto the side of the road to the ditch. The car that struck me took off. I started to follow the vehicle. So after I realized I couldn't catch up to him, I proceeded to go back to their house. I explained to her.
Well, you get to a point why you're not responsible.
For one, I didn't cause the accident. After I went to go try to file the police reports, I found out the car didn't have insurance. And I attempted many times to file the police report to try to get some kind of outcome out of it.
How many times did you go and file the police report?
I never got to file the police report.
How many times did you try? You said you spent a lot of time trying.
I called more than 5 times. I had called the first.
Who did you call?
The sheriff's office.
You called at least 5 times.
Yes,
and they called the IRS once. 4 times the police department, 1 time IRS. Where's the car now?
It's at my house.
You have what it'll take to fix it?
Yes, I do.
Let me see.
And pictures of the car.
What year car is it?
It's a 2001.
Why isn't it insured?
Unfortunately, at the time, my husband had received a speeding ticket. At the time, his vehicle insurance was coming due, and it went up about $900. So the insurance lapsed on my car.
You owe any money on this car?
Yes, I do. I still make monthly payments for it.
You're in big trouble. You don't live together anymore, or do you live together?
I live with my mother. I don't live with him anymore.
Where does he live?
In Illinois.
Stand up. When was the last time you spent an evening with Mr. Ruiz?
Before he moved out.
Does he send you any money for the children?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not an answer.
No, he doesn't give me child support. He buys the girls stuff for school, and then in clothes. I don't get like a regular amount a month.
Why not?
I don't ask for it. I just ask if I need something, I ask him for it.
That's not the way it works. He's supposed to pay money, cash money. Wants to buy his daughter's clothing? Terrific. That's what fathers do.
I know that's my mistake.
Has he ever been declared the father of these children in a court?
No, but he is the father.
I didn't ask you whether he is or not.
No.
Has the state ever paid any money towards these children's support?
No. I've worked for 7 years since my first daughter was born.
He's supposed to pay child support, and you're supposed to help your mother.
I do help my mother. I pay rent and I pay for...
If what you're telling me is you don't need Mr. Ruiz's money, then what I'm going to tell you is this. You open up 2 bank accounts in your children's names and say, I'm going to pay my mother the support for the house and for the gas and electric and food and everything else. I'm going to take Mr. Ruiz's money, I'm going to put it in the bank for their college. You would like your children to have a future?
Yes.
Well, get it from their father. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
22-year-old Lorena Villalpudua is suing her boyfriend's ex, 24-year-old Magdalena Contreras, for vandalizing her car. Lorena claims Magdalena ripped off the license plate frame.
According to your complaint, the defendant, Ms. Contreras, is your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
Correct.
They also have a child together.
Right.
How old is that child?
He's 6.
Are you pregnant again?
Yes.
Whose baby is that?
My fiance.
You live together?
Yes.
You only have one child?
Little Rudy, and then this one that's coming on the way.
According to your complaint, you and your fiance were at an open school night at Rudy's school.
Right.
The defendant was there with her mother.
Yes.
There was some sort of an argument that took place, and after that, Ms. Contreras vandalized your car.
Yes, because she was upset with him.
Ms. Contreras says she didn't do as much as you said she did, just did a little. Is that your defense?
Yes.
Ms. Contreras, that's almost like being a little bit pregnant. It doesn't happen.
Lorena Villalpudua says her boyfriend's ex, Magdalena Contreras vandalized her car. Magdalena claims Lorena provoked her.
Now, I'm going to go to Miss Contreras because Miss Contreras doesn't seem to object and seems to acknowledge the fact that she did put her hands on your car. So I'm going to ask her to tell me why.
Because my ex, Rudy, was supposed to take our son.
Rudy?
Yes. He was supposed to take our son to open house, which he didn't. And
Okay. So it was an open school night and Rudy was with his father?
yes,
For how long?
it's joint custody, so every other week he's with his dad.
So he had him for the week?
Yes.
Okay, so he didn't bring him to open school night.
Yeah, he didn't.
So?
So I got upset and I started asking him, why didn't he bring our son? And he said our son rather be with his grandpa. And I just got upset and I started yelling at him.
In the school?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why?
Because I was upset. I was hurt that he didn't take our son.
Control yourself. You were making a scene in the school?
Yes.
Well, that's stupid.
I know it's stupid.
Didn't your mother tell you to shut up?
Yeah, she did tell me to shut up, but I didn't
Good
listen to
for
her.
you.
No, she didn't.
Good for you.
She did not.
Shh. Am I the kind of person who needs help from you?
No.
So you created a scene in your son's school, which of course left everybody, including the teachers, the administration, the other parents, with the idea that this child comes from a home where they're not going to let their kids go and visit, certainly, because his mother doesn't know how to control herself.
Well, I was very hurt that he didn't take our son. Our son was
Get over it.
all happy that he was going to go.
Get over it. Did the court grant you joint custody?
Yes.
The court granted you joint custody, then the court clearly had to say, I think that both of these parents are responsible enough to take care of this child an equal amount of time, that they're two good parents, and they made a judgment that he was as good a parent as you were. So that if he's with his father and his father decides not to bring him to open school night, that's none of your business. So let's move on from there. So you got angry, making a scene in the school in front of other people. Then what did you do?
We went into the classroom. The teacher started talking to us, and she was showing us.
Were you behaving at this point?
Yeah.
Good.
I just went to his desk and got his little picture, and then me and my mom took off, and then I seen Lorena's car, and I recognized it, and I just broke off her license plate holder. That's all I did to it. I didn't scratch it or anything else.
Well, tell me exactly the steps that you took. You saw her car while you were driving in your car?
No, I
Or
was
were you
walking to my car.
Okay. You were walking to your car, you saw her car. So you had to bend down. Did you take off the back license plate or the front?
The back, just the holder.
And what did you do with it?
I broke it off, and then I was going to leave it on her window, but I didn't, so I just took off with it.
Can I see photographs of the damage to the car, please?
Yes, you may. I also have a police report,
I'd like to see that too, please.
and it has a witness, a 13-year-old girl that was standing out near the car.
Well, when you pulled it off, madam, you scratched the paint.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did!
No, I didn't. I didn't
Listen
scratch
to
her
me.
car.
Listen to me. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That's why I'm here and you're there.
I didn't scratch her car.
That's why I'm here and you're there.
Your Honor, I seen it.
Just a second. Say nothing. You still have to share custody of this child, I assume.
Yes.
So, she can get mad at me, I don't care. As a matter of fact, I rather like it. You were driving the white truck,
Yes, ma'am.
and you said to your daughter, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Exactly. What did you say to this idiot when she got back into the car?
I told her that, why did you do that? It was uncalled for.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You have an estimate?
I do.
I didn't scratch her car when I broke that off. There's no way that I scratched her car.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Go ahead.
The license plate frame is screwed on.
I know what she did. She
can't-
pulled it off. She went like this in order to get it off, and in doing so, she scratched the car with the license plate. That's what she did. And she keeps saying, I just took off the frame. When you went over to take off the frame, genius, did you have with you a pliers?
No.
You had your hands?
Yes.
So you had to pull it. It was screwed on. When you pulled it, in order to get it off, and you were jiggling it, you scratched around the car. Do you get it?
I didn't scratch her car.
Oh, what an idiot. What an idiot. Listen, do me a favor. You know, she's pregnant now. when she's finished, discuss birth control with her. It's really a shame that we're continuing this. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $618. That's all.
Michael and Robin Thompson claim former neighbor Suzanne Statham owes for harassment and vandalism to their car. Suzanne is countersuing, claiming Michael vandalized her front lawn.
Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, you rented a house in a neighborhood where Mrs. Statham has been a homeowner for many, many years. According to your complaint, for some strange reason, she didn't like you and your family from the beginning and created a situation that ultimately ended in your moving from the house. You are suing her for filing false charges with Child Protective Services, vandalism, and for harassment. Ms. Statham says that while she acknowledges that she called Child Protective Services, she believes she had good cause to do that. And with regard to the vandalism, she said she would never vandalize your car. However, she has proof that you did vandalize her property, and she is counterclaiming. When did you move into this house?
January 2004.
And how many people moved into the house?
5.
Yourself and 3 children?
Yes.
How old are your 3 children?
5, 10, and 16.
Boys, girls?
2 oldest are boys, youngest is a girl.
Okay, so tell me about the first confrontation that you had, allegedly, with Ms. Statham with regard to these false charges with Child Protective Services.
The first was February 2004.
Is that correct, Ms. Statham?
I called. I don't remember exactly when I called.
Fine. Tell me why you called Child Protective Services.
I was concerned.
Well, tell me what made you concerned.
The reason I was concerned is because they would not be there when the boy came home.
Which boy?
It's the oldest boy. I was concerned about his well-being.
Well, tell me what made you concerned.
Because he was left out.
What do you mean left out?
They wouldn't be home when he came home from school. When it was bad weather, he'd be outside, sitting on the porch. I'd let him use my phone to call whomever, and they would come home and let him in.
Yes.
Then he told me that he was living in a tent in the backyard.
Yes.
Sleeping there.
When he said he was sleeping in a tent in the backyard, was the connotation his parents didn't let him in the house?
I kind of, you know, felt sorry for him. I did. I felt like it was, I don't know. He just told me, quote unquote.
No. That's they didn't say. Well, I sleep in a tent in the backyard. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
No.
That Miss Statham, that didn't happen. If you were having a conversation with him and you were talking to him about other things, and he may have said, "I sleep in the backyard in a tent. That's my own private space. I like it back there." That sounds more logical to me. Is that what happened?
Well, he told me that he was living in a tent in the backyard, and he liked it. And I said, "Well, isn't it cold back there?"
And what did he say?
He says, "Oh, I've got a lot of covers."
Yeah.
Okay. And there were so many nights that he was out late at night playing basketball that I heard him. And I was just concerned that he was out at 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Well, yeah, it's pretty snoopy. Shh. I'm just telling you, that's pretty snoopy. We're talking about a 16-year-old boy being out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and saying to you that I sleep in a tent in the backyard and I sleep under covers and I'm very happy. Do you have teenage children?
I've had teenage children.
Did they ever do anything that was bizarre?
Oh, yes, they did.
A lot of things that are bizarre.
Okay.
Well, and now if they want to go out in the backyard and sleep in a teepee or in a tree house, you know, you're just lucky that they don't want their own condo.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then I did say something, you know, as far as I raised my children alone, and latchkey kids had keys, and I mentioned it to Mr. Thompson.
What did you say to him?
I said, you know, like, if they're going to be latchkey kids, at least they could have a key.
For my own information, is there a reason why the 16-year-old didn't have a key to the house?
He loses keys, so we don't personally give him one. There's a lockbox out front with the key in it. And the time frame that he was left alone would be the time that we had to go pick up our other 2 children and then come back. So we come back usually around 4 o'clock. So he's not out all night long. It's only about 30 minutes.
Okay. I mean, I just indicated that I felt as if her interfering in what was going on in your house, because based upon what she says, there was nothing so untoward that in my judgment as a seasoned family court practitioner would have inspired another neighbor to pick up the phone and call Child Protective Services. 16-year-old being out in the street playing basketball at 10 o'clock at night is not neglect, and certainly a 16-year-old who chooses, with parental permission I gather, to sleep out in a tent rather than to sleep in the house is not abuse.
It wasn't a tent either. It's a shed, as you would call it.
With electricity,
Electricity,
carpet,
carpeting, a fan, a heater,
Why
TV.
was he sleeping out there?
Well, he would sleep out there when he wanted to, but he wasn't opening the lockbox to go into the house, so we created an environment for him in the back after school to go play videos, do his homework, whatever.
Have his own personal
Because
space.
it was a rainy season. We didn't want him outside, but he was too lazy to unlock the box. So that's a 16-year-old.
Right. Now, I want you to describe to me the other forms of what you claim to be harassment.
Okay. Several times there was debris all over our vehicles. A dead rat was put on our car in the morning. After the dead rat incident, we installed a surveillance camera.
This was in September 8th. When I went out to my car, we had already moved the basketball hoop because there were 18 reports to the county where our landlord called us and said, look, you need to move the basketball hoop from the street.
So it's one of these portable things that you put out there that
Correct.
really isn't supposed to be out there, so somebody called and complained. I assume that was you. I cannot, well, I can fault her. I cannot say to Miss Statham, who acknowledges that she called the town, she probably called the landlord about this basketball hoop. If it's not supposed to be there, she's within her rights to call.
Right.
Okay. So she was not a good neighbor, but now we're going to get to the vandalism.
Right.
So you installed a video
surveillance
camera.
After
Now,
the dead rat.
After a dead rat. Now, Miss Statham says there was no way she would vandalize your car. Tell me what you found on your car after you installed the video camera.
In the morning, the wife went out. She said there was rocks and debris all over the hood of the car. So I rewound the tape and saw Miss Statham turn her porch light off, come outside, have a cigarette, go through her garden, walk over to the vehicle, throw something on the windshield of the car, and you can hear it hit. And she brushes her hands off and walks back in the house.
I assume that since I see that tape there, that's something that you want me to see. Now, before I see the tape, Miss Statham, did you or did you not vandalize
I
their
did
car?
not.
That's all I want to know.
You can see her porch light's on. She turns off her light. When she comes outside, you'll see her.
Just a second.
There
You
she
see her
is.
walking over to the car, and you can hear it. You can hear it hit the windshield, and then she walks back into the house.
She always turns off her porch light when she goes outside.
The reason
to
my porch
smoke.
light is off right there, Your Honor, is because they have those bright lights on me right now.
What were you doing out there, madam?
Well, I had had a cigarette. I was just checking, you know.
No. If you...
I mean, you can't walk out at 10 o'clock. I didn't do anything. I did not throw anything at their car. I swear. I didn't.
So now you can tell me what kind of damage there was to your car.
We have pictures here of the damage.
Can I see, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's a 3-inch crack on the top of the windshield. We took a picture of the car far apart and closer in, and there's also a picture of the surveillance camera.
Did you file a police report, Mr. Thompson,
Yes,
after
ma'am.
this
We have a
incident
copy
of
of
September
that.
5th? Can I see it, please? Anything happen after that?
Yeah, there was an incident where someone went through our car. She screamed at us and our children about the way that our lawn was kept. She sent her son over to talk to us because she said some foul language to us, and we
And our
responded
children.
back to
It was
her.
bad language.
Oh, yes.
Well, that was the wrong thing to do.
So she sent her son over to try and make peace with us.
Is their son here? That's you? Stand up, please. Tell me your name.
My name is Sean Rafferty.
How long has it been since you lived with your mother?
Since I was 16, 17 years old.
Is that when you left?
Yes, ma'am.
Why'd you leave?
I was grown up.
You were grown up at 16?
I felt so.
Just a minute. And you think you were right?
Yes.
So if you wanted to live outside in the backyard in a tent, up a tree, in a subway, or any place else, that would have been okay. Because you're a big boy. You're 16, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, there came a time, according to the Thompsons, when you went over to their home in order to try to make peace. Why did you think you had to make peace?
Well, because the night before my mom called and she was scared because he would back his truck into the driveway so his headlights were facing at her and put his high beams on and leave them on. And I know my mom's a little nosy, as you said, so I know she's hard to live with. So I just walked over, knocked on the door, asked for the man of the house, you know, put my hand out to greet him, give him my name, and, you know, can we just let this be over? I apologize for her bugging you, and, you know, I know that she could do that because she...
Yeah, that's why you left when you were 16. Go.
But, you know, he didn't want to have anything to do with me.
What did, no. What did he say?
To say verbatim, I don't know exactly what
Well,
he
if
said.
you went over there, and I assume when you went over there, you were sober.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. He wasn't falling over drunk, but he did have something to drink. We don't drink.
Because,
We
Mr.
can smell
Rafferty,
it.
you got a little bit of a problem?
No, ma'am.
You do. Because it's early in the day, and I can tell you got a little bit of a problem, Mr. Rafferty. A little bit. So when you went over there, I doubt whether you went over stone sober. What did he say to you when he came over?
When he first came to the door, he said, basically, that's my mother across the street. And I remember saying, I'm sorry to hear that. And he kind of had an attitude at first.
No, what did he say? Don't tell me he had an attitude.
He was just kind of rambling on, telling me that his mother drinks on certain days. She's very nosy. She just wants you to cut your lawn the way she likes it. Clean up the trash from the side, which we cleaned out our garage, so our trash cans were full, so we had to wait till the next trash day. So she didn't like that fact. And then he calmed down, I guess, and, you know, tried to apologize for his mother.
And said, let it just go.
Correct.
And what did you say to him?
That's fine. Tell your mother, leave us alone. We don't want nothing to do with her. Don't talk to us. Don't talk to our children. Stay away from us. And we also sent her a letter to that effect.
Can I see the letter?
Yes, ma'am. This was sent on July 6th.
Okay. Now, Mr. Thompson, Miss Tatum says that she has a witness. I assume that would be you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's going to testify on her behalf that he saw you damage her property. Is that true?
No, ma'am. I say he's a liar.
Well, I'm going to be able to tell if he's a liar, because that's my job. And I'm usually pretty good at it. Okay. Mr. Rafferty, you can sit down. Tell me your name.
Richard J. Machado.
Where do you live?
Manteca.
Is that near where Miss Staten lives?
Right next door.
You're going to describe something to me, something that you allegedly saw?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In the early hour of the morning. I had got up to go to the restroom. It was about after 3 o'clock.
Give me the date.
The 17th.
And Miss Staten, don't speak.
No. I got it written down on paper. 17th.
17th of what?
May, after 3 o'clock in the morning. And then her dogs start barking. Then I went to the window and raised the blind to see why they were barking. And Mr. Thompson was on the bottom of her driveway. I could see him come up the driveway and in a sweeping motion, throw some fluid out, and then walk to the edge of the property towards where his car was parked on her side, and dabbled around there on the lawn on the edge. There was arm motion, but he had his back to me. So I don't know what he was doing at that time, but I know that he was making motions. Okay. And then he was standing in front of it like he was admiring his work. And then
you saw this, and there are street lights out there. Is that what you're telling me?
Well,
I'm not asking you anything. Okay. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, yeah, because he has 2 spotlights facing her house, and then put a video camera in, and then to harass more, he even put a big sign in the middle of his lawn that says, "Vandal neighbor acquire within."
Miss Staten, I'd like to see the photographs of what you in the morning.
Okay.
And, Your Honor, we have a letter from Miss Tatum. According to her, it happened May 14th.
The 14th was
Shh. Mr. Thompson.
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody clearly poured something on her lawn.
I understand.
I don't know. I can only get out something. Oh, it probably says wacko. K-U. C-K-U.
The 4-letter word, ma'am.
Oh, something really nasty. I thought it was
Right.
wacko. Oh, strike that. Okay, somebody clearly wrote in something caustic on her lawn. Mr. Thompson, I believe that would be you.
No, ma'am.
Well, you see, that's my job, because I have to make a judgment whether this gentleman is making this up. Now, why don't I think he's making it up? I don't think he's making up that it happened, because clearly it happened.
Oh, it did happen. Not by me.
I don't think that she did it to herself. That didn't happen. I don't think that he did it. I don't even think that her son, when he wasn't in total control, did it. So, it was you. Maybe it was your 16-year-old son. Who knows? But whether it was you or your 16-year-old son, that's your responsibility. So somebody from your house did it. which was as juvenile as what was going on from her end.
No, ma'am, we did not do it.
Well, you say no, I say yes. I have the last word because I'm the judge. That's what they pay me for. I also believe that Miss Staten threw something at your car. And she'll say she didn't do it. She'll say it didn't happen. And I'm telling her that I believe it did happen. I believe that the two of you acted like very bad neighbors, but I believe she started it. I believe that she's a snoop. I believe that she's a busybody. I believe that she probably didn't like the way renters were taking care of this house that was rented. All kinds of things, none of which is any of her busybody business. I'm not saying it's true, and I'm not saying she was right. I'm saying she's a big old busybody, and she's a big old pain in the neck. That's what Mom is, and that's why you left. She's a busybody who's got nothing else to do with her time but mind other people's businesses.
But
that is not a lawsuit.
But she harassed us. And
listen to me.
No, CPS coming over not once but twice, pulling our children out of school, checking their bodies.
Listen to me. You're absolutely right. She says I was concerned over a 16-year-old.
No, she thought he was 13.
Pay careful attention to what I'm saying to you. You, A, have no proof that she called CPS twice. She acknowledged she called once, not twice. You have any proof she called twice? You have any proof she called twice? The answer is yes or no.
No.
All right. The fact that they took your children out of school is very unfortunate. She's a busybody. She's just been dressed down in front of 10 million people.
Yep.
And she had no right to do it. That is not actionable unless you can prove some sort of malice, which you cannot. And the way you respond to that is not bleaching her lawn.
We didn't
do
do that.
Okay, I find that you did. Did you move?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you happy?
Oh, yes.
Goodbye and good luck. Have a happy life. And Miss Staten, you're not always going to get neighbors that you like. Mind your own business. You're a big girl. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Tricia Thomas and her fiancé Wesley McMillan are suing former friend Billy Chrisley for causing them to be ticketed for the possession of marijuana.
According to what I read, you were traveling in two cars, leaving Texas on your way to Arkansas because of Hurricane Rita.
Yes, ma'am.
You were traveling behind Miss Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
In the car that you were traveling in was Mr. McMillan, one of Miss Thomas's children.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Thomas was traveling in front of you, and in your car was another one of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chrisley, you were pulled over by the police.
Yes, ma'am.
For tailgating.
Yes, ma'am.
What did the policeman say to you?
Well, he pulled me over for tailgating. That's what he told me he pulled me over for.
In what state were you when you got
Oklahoma.
pulled? Oklahoma.
We were on our way back.
Go ahead.
So he pulled us over. He asked me for my license, registration, and all that for the car. And I told him I didn't have my license, and I just got the car, so I didn't have no insurance, no registration, no nothing on it, because I just got it.
Well, what about your license?
It was expired, and I still had to leave to go to Arkansas, and I just drove back, you know.
Could we move on, please? What else did the police officer say to you?
So he ran my record and everything else. Then he asked me if I had anything, and I told him yes. And so he went back to
well, you said yes, and he said, what?
No, we just went back to my car. I gave him what I had.
Well, what did you have?
I just had maybe a joint and a half.
Of marijuana?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you have it?
In my center console.
Where'd you get it from?
I brought it from home.
Had you used it while you were in Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
And you only had a little bit left?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway, so now, against that backdrop, Officer Byrd, the police officer gave him a ticket and also gave Mr. McMillan a ticket because under the laws in the state of Oklahoma, if there's marijuana or drugs in the car, everybody's responsible. So everybody gets a ticket. So Mr. McMillan got a ticket, and Miss Thomas over here had to pay the ticket, or else she was leaving Mr. McMillan in Oklahoma. And she wanted him home because it looks to me as if you're expecting.
Yes, ma'am.
How wonderful.
Tricia Thomas and fiancé Wesley McMillan say former friend Billy Chrisley caused them to be cited for possession of marijuana.
So since you had to come up with this money because of his personal use marijuana, you really feel as if he should take care of the ticket.
Correct. I don't think I should because I already admitted up to my own stuff
But why is it his fault?
Well, I don't see why the cop gave him a ticket for my stuff. I already gave it to him.
Because that's the law. I haven't seen that law, but I must assume in Oklahoma, if you are an adult and you are apprehended or stopped in a car and there is contraband, you know what that is? You know, bad stuff, contraband?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody in the car is responsible.
Okay.
That's the law. So your suggestion that he sue the cop really doesn't make sense. Now, if you said to me, look, he shared the marijuana with me, he smoked the marijuana in Arkansas, he knew it was there because we both used it together.
Well, we did.
Did you?
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh, where did you do that?
While we were up there.
In Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
Really? You sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Mr. McMillan.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been clean from every drug and alcohol for over 6 months and still going.
Well, sometimes there's a little bit of stress, Mr. McMillan, when you're escaping a hurricane.
Nope.
Because of the stress, he started smoking cigarettes again.
That was it.
Where were you in Arkansas, sir, when he was smoking this marijuana with you?
We were at the person's house that we were staying at. We just walked around the woods.
No, ma'am. The only time that me and Mr. Crisply ever took a walk, we went to the woods. There was nothing ever done. We ran down the side of a mountain and came back up, and that was it.
Now, when was your license suspended?
It was suspended in about, I think, 2002.
For what?
My dad gave me the keys to his truck so to give back to my mom. And when the cop pulled me over, they searched me. And all I had in there was, I had a 12-pack, but there was only 6 of them left. But when they searched the truck, they found a little baby roach that was in a film case that was in the truck, which I didn't know was there.
More drugs and alcohol.
Well, the alcohol was mine.
Was it inside your belly, inside your little tummy? 6-pack?
Yes.
So you lost your license because of drugs and alcohol?
No, it was just the drugs. They didn't charge me with alcohol.
Just the drugs. How'd you come up with the $940 to pay your ticket?
My ticket was $1,261.
Well, how'd you come up with $1,261
I had to borrow it from my mom, and I'm still paying her back. They had to use their house note to pay for that fine. And by the time it added all up, it was $1,343.
You want to know something?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe him. I believe that Mr. McMillan knew that he had marijuana.
I didn't know he had it in the car.
I know you didn't, but Mr. McMillan did, and I believe he used it with him. Now, that certainly would indicate to me that he bore some responsibility for this marijuana being in the car. So I suggest you get your money from him. And while the defendant acknowledges that this was his marijuana, everything else he's told me, I believe. He's not making up this stuff because he's certainly not making himself look too good, right? You understand that I don't think you look like a model citizen.
Which I know I'm not.
We know you're not.
Yes, ma'am.
But I believe you when you say that he was smoking marijuana with you in Arkansas. You are telling me the truth, aren't you, sir? I believe you. So that being the case, Mr. McMillan, you pay your own ticket, and I suggest you reimburse your fiancé for the ticket. You knew the stuff was there. You enjoyed it while you were in Arkansas. You got to pay the piper. Case dismissed. That's all.
Holly McLean says ex-husband Steve Reed owes for his share of their daughter's wedding. Steve says Holly went over budget.
Mr. Reed, how many children do you have, sir?
6.
Who is your oldest child?
Stephanie.
That's this child here?
Yes.
And your youngest?
Brandon.
How old is Brandon?
Brandon is 8.
You and Mrs. McLean were married for how long?
2 years, I believe.
And how many children do you have together?
2.
Your daughter is planning her wedding. And according to her, you and your former husband agreed to split the cost of the wedding. You did a budget. It was going to be $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Reed, you agreed to pay for half.
Correct.
You did, in fact, pay $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
But the wedding went over budget, and you want him to pay half of the overage of $800.
Yes.
And Mr. Reed says, you went over budget, girls. That's your problem. I agreed to pay for half the wedding, which was budgeted at $5,000, and that's what I'm going to pay.
I agree.
Why did you go over budget?
Well, the reason we had gone...
So, listen, did you have a nice wedding?
Yeah. She had a beautiful wedding.
Beautiful wedding, beautiful bride, beautiful husband, nice-looking parents. Don't act... What?
I said yes, thank you.
Do you let him speak at home? Is that the reason he feels compelled to speak here? Because he's not allowed to speak at home?
Don't speak it.
She's cute. Okay, now getting back to you. Why did you go over budget?
Well, the reason we had gone over budget was we had it at the reception at a place that cost a lot more money than we had anticipated.
Now, when you realized that this was going to cost more than you anticipated, because you could have found a site that would have cost within the budget, but that's not what you really wanted, right? You wanted a different place. What did you do when you realized you were going over budget?
Well, Stephanie and I did a lot of emails back and forth because she actually lives in Utah. And I was planning the wedding here. And so I had told her that it looked like we were probably going to go over the cost of the wedding. And so she was kind of my in-between person between her dad and I, and had emailed to him and his current wife that we were going to be probably going over the budget.
Do you have an email from him indicating that's fine, I will pay half of whatever the overage is?
I do.
Let me see it.
This was actually an email to Stephanie.
That's fine. Well, this is not from Mr. Reed. This is from Mr. Reed's wife.
Right.
Do you know that your wife sent an email, sir, that said, listen, that's to Steph, and said, your dad and I don't have a problem if you go over the $5,000, some, as long as your mom is willing to split the cost. Do you know that your wife said that?
At the time that email was written, no, I wasn't aware that she said that.
When did you become aware of this?
I became aware about 1 to 2 weeks before the wedding as we discussed the overage.
So your wife was speaking allegedly for you, which she can't do, but they acted upon this and then went over their budget. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it was really in good faith that your daughter went over the budget because she felt as if she was dealing with your wife, and your wife had the authority to say, okay, as long as mom splits the cost and as long as you're not going. So when you found out, Mr. Reed, about this email, what did you do?
Well, by the time I found out about the comment that my wife made, things had already become contentious because all along I had made it clear to Holly that I agreed to a certain amount. Not only that, in the beginning, Holly wanted to spend far less. I actually felt that we should spend more, and it was my suggestion to pay the $5,000. Then come
Is that
back.
true?
That's true.
That's a good guy.
So to then come back to me and then say that she wanted me to pay more money, and not only that, in the beginning when she wanted me to pay the overage, she wanted me to pay the entire overage, which she estimated would be $300 to $400. And like I say, it became contentious, and so I said, we're going to have to settle the matter after the wedding. I don't want it to affect the wedding.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Reed. So?
So?
Well, he did not agree to pay half of the overage.
I know he did not agree to pay half. But when I had sent them an email stating why we had gone over, and he even told me on the wedding day that he would help me pay the overage of the wedding.
Did you tell her that, Mr. Reed?
What I said is that I would look at the expenses and analyze them and get back to her.
And did you look at the expenses?
I did.
Anything there look untoward to you?
The invitations cost $280 more than we had originally was discussed with my wife, Suzanne. There was a DJ that I knew nothing about, and he cost $450.
Well, DJ is great at a wedding. Did everybody have a good time?
I think so.
Did you dance?
A little bit.
I didn't say if you danced well, Mr. Reed.
Yes.
I said, did you dance?
I did.
Other than the DJ for $450, was it originally anticipated that there was any music?
There was going to be pre-recorded music. Okay.
I have very little sympathy because if what we're talking about here is $800, I would have paid the $2 so we wouldn't end up here. So there wouldn't be any bad feeling. You probably already paid so much to raise your daughter to this point, right? Probably cost you a couple of bucks over the course of, how old are you?
19.
19 years? So I don't know whether I would make a big to-do. But let's see. All right, the DJ, what else?
Let's see. There was a video that was done that was presented at the wedding. It was a nice video. It was $210.
A video of what?
They interviewed Stephanie and Tim about the way they met and things like that. And it was shown at the wedding. Yes, it was nicely done. But once again, I knew nothing about it. The bridesmaids' outfits, traditionally the bridesmaids pay for those.
That's absolutely right. Why didn't the bridesmaids pay for their own outfits?
Well, Stephanie and I discussed that we would just take care of that.
Well, I don't know. You can't do that and obligate him. Ms. McLean, first of all, it's not traditional.
Right.
And second of all, you can't be magnanimous with his money. What else?
The last one is traditionally a portion of the flowers are paid for by the groom or the groom's family. So the portion of those flowers, I have it listed at $248.
Can I say something about the flowers? I didn't feel we should ask Tim's family to pay for the flowers. They were actually having a reception in Arizona a week later, and they were paying for everything there for that reception. And they also paid for the luncheon, so I didn't feel it was right to ask them to also pay for the flowers.
Well, very nice. What do you want from him? He doesn't want to be used as a cash register.
Oh, I understand.
Which is, we'll make the arrangements, and you'll pay your half. And we don't have to consult with you. We're going to tell you this is what we want to do, and if it goes over, it goes over. Well, that's unreasonable.
Well, there's more to it than that.
You may explain it to me. But did you call him and tell him about the DJ before you hired the DJ?
No.
Did you call him and tell him that you were going to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses before you agreed to pay for them?
No.
Did you call him and tell him you decided not to ask the bridegroom's family for the flowers?
Yes, we did tell them that.
When?
Before the wedding, when he had stated that they thought that the groom's family had to pay for part of the flowers.
And what did you say? You told him no.
I didn't agree with that.
Fine. That doesn't mean he's not entitled to say, that's fine. You want to pay for that? Pay for it.
Okay, but there's more to it. Where we had the reception, we actually wanted to have it at my parents' house so we could cut the costs. Well, Steve didn't want to have it there.
I don't blame him.
It would have been, the cost would have been a lot less.
Miss McLean, what you just said to me has absolutely nothing to do with what I've told you, which is you cannot use your former husband as a cash register. He's a person with opinions, and as long as you want to spend money and you want him to reimburse you for the money, he has the right to an opinion. You may not agree with that opinion, and if you don't agree with it and you want to spend the money, you spend it. What he's complaining about is you didn't discuss it with him, and that was wrong. I just want you to understand that I don't think your father was wrong. I think your mother was well-intentioned, but I don't think your father was wrong. And I've been involved with lots of weddings. And I wouldn't think of saying to my ex-husband, you're going to pay for half, and I'm going to decide where it's going to be, what kind of music we have, what flowers we have, what the invitations look like, and I'll send you the bill for half. Right?
But we did...
Flattened out on the floor. And I wouldn't blame him. So, in case there's any bad feeling, I don't think your father was wrong. And Miss McLean, if you wanted to do these things and you chose not to get an agreement with him before, you pay for it yourself. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Marcus Mahaffey says his estranged mother-in-law, Patricia Strawn, owes for burning his work uniforms. Patricia claims Marcus is making up a story.
Mr. Mahaffey, the defendant is your mother-in-law. You are currently separated from your wife. I assume this is your wife.
Yes.
And you have one child together.
Yes, ma'am.
I gather from your complaint that you, your wife, and your baby were living with Miss Strawn in her home.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was some altercation involving you and your wife and your baby. You claimed that you left, and after you left, Miss Strawn burned your clothes.
Yes.
Miss Strawn says she did not burn your clothes, she put them out on the curb. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did your daughter and her husband live with you? From when to when?
They're going to be married 2 years in September. Pretty much the whole time they've been with us.
And when did you leave?
May 23rd on a Monday.
Tell me what happened.
I had my mother pick me up from work.
Did she always pick you up from work?
No, ma'am.
Why did she pick you up on the 23rd of May?
I had no ride at the time.
Okay, she picked you up from work and dropped you off at your house?
My house was at her house at the time. I got there, and I asked my mother if she wanted to see our son, Ethan, and I told her to wait 1 minute. I went up to the front porch after arriving at the house.
Why did you tell her to wait? Don't they get along?
To some extent. There's been some problems, arguments.
There'd be no reason why she couldn't have came in.
Okay, go ahead.
I went up to the front porch, and what I saw was Ashley and a couple of her friends smoking marijuana on the front porch, and my son was running around in the middle of them.
Where was your mother-in-law?
She was at work at the time.
Is this the first time that you saw your wife smoking marijuana in front of your son?
No, ma'am.
Was this a frequent occurrence?
Yes.
My daughter did. That's my pod.
Don't shout out again. I let you do it once.
Okay.
But don't. Go ahead. Put your hand down.
After seeing what I saw, I had asked for Ashley to ask all her friends to leave at the time.
Well, you probably got angry. If what you say is true, you probably didn't just ask, you probably got angry and you were shouting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you were shouting, and what did you do?
I told her I was going to my mother's house to stay for a little while, so I had picked my son up, and I did not want him to be around.
You picked him up and you walked outside with him?
Yes.
And you went to the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happened next?
I asked my mother if we could come over there and stay for a day or two. She said that's fine. We had left and went to the house, and when we arrived at my mother's house, Ashley had called me and told me to give her back her son. And I said, not with you smoking marijuana around him. Until you can stop, then you can call me.
All right. Miss McCafferty, I'd like you to stand up, please. You remember going over to the Strawn house on the 23rd of May?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went over there, when your son came back, he came back with your grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what he said to you when he came back?
He simply stated that they were up there smoking marijuana and he didn't want his son around it. And
Did he use the word marijuana?
No, ma'am. He pot.
Okay.
And asked me if he could come over to the house and stay and bring the baby, which at that point I told him yes.
Okay. Keep going, Mr. McCaffrey.
After we arrived at the house, Ashley had called me, and she told me to bring back the baby. And I said, no, not with you smoking. And after that, she had hung up on me. And I had called Patty at work, and I had told her what she was doing, because before I had called her, Ashley had already called her at work and said that I had kidnapped our son.
Well, that's not possible.
And after that, I talked to her for about 20 minutes or so, and she said, why are you doing this? Ashley does not smoke. She hung up.
Ms. Strawn, are you thoroughly convinced that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana?
Well, actually...
Just answer my question. Thoroughly convinced?
Yes.
All right. There's a very simple way to find that out, Ms. Strawn.
She's been tested. They turned her into defects.
Has she done a hair follicle test or just a urine test?
The urine test. She passed 5.
Just a second. Has she done a hair follicle test?
Nobody suggested it.
Very easy. We can take care of that.
Well, you'll have to do it to him, too, because he's bad as she is.
No, just a second. I'm not interested in him right now. I'm interested in your daughter. Urine test is nothing. But a hair follicle test will demonstrate when you smoked, how much you smoked, and it stays in the hair follicle for up to a year. So you understand that if I order a hair follicle test, if your daughter consents, the results of that test can be sent to any domestic relations court when there is an issue of custody and or visitation. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
And go and discuss with your daughter whether she's prepared for us to take a sample of her hair and send it to our laboratory. Go ahead.
Like
go
I
ask
said,
her.
ma'am, if you
go,
do it to him,
no,
too.
just, he's not an issue.
Good.
Yeah. Fine, we'll do that. At the conclusion of the hearing, we'll do that.
Well, what does that have to do with what the case is about, ma'am?
Well, it has a great deal to do with the case, madam, because what you're saying is that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana, therefore the story that he just told me about going up to the porch and seeing her is a lie. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm saying, well, there's a very easy way to figure that out. It has nothing to do with whether he smokes marijuana or not. It's whether your daughter did, and you are committed to the fact that she does not.
Right.
You want to smoke dope, that's your business, but don't smoke dope in front of your child.
I don't, ma'am.
Or be around friends who do.
We weren't smoking pot, ma'am.
What were you doing?
Sitting there talking, and he took the baby without a car seat and left. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, told me to come. He smokes crack, too.
Just a second. Smokes marijuana? And you never... Stand up. Stand up. And what you're telling me is you never did it with him?
Yes, ma'am, I will admit to that.
All right. That's all I'm asking you, my dear. So your mother is mistaken. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
She is bad. That's all I wanted to know. That's it. That's the issue. Now you can sit down. You got it? Your daughter does smoke marijuana. She didn't tell you, but she smoked it with her husband. She says he smokes other things, too. I didn't ask her about the other things, but she clearly smokes marijuana. Now we understand each other, Miss Strawn? Oh. Now, let's get back to your burned clothing. Go! And get there fast, because I have other things to do today.
We arrived at the house after her calling me, and I talked to
So
Patty.
you brought the baby back. Keep
Yes,
going.
ma'am. And that night, when I was talking to Ashley, I heard Patty in the background asking for marshmallows. I asked why they want marshmallows. Did they have a fire going? Ashley said, yes, they're burning your clothes. They want to roast marshmallows over your clothes. And I did not believe her. So the next day on the 24th, I went over there to see for myself. Patty was not there. Ashley refused to show me any clothes. I just happened to walk down the driveway and I smelled something burnt, a distinctive smell.
Is that burnt clothes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You want to show me one piece of the burnt clothing? I don't have to see the whole thing.
Your Honor, who's to say that he didn't burn his own clothes?
Me.
After everything he's done to me.
Me, I'm to say.
Okay.
I'm to say. Because I read your answer. Shh. Got it. Okay, you can put it away. Okay. Ms. Strawn says that she took your clothes and she put them out by the curb.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I did.
You can't do that.
Why?
Because he's a resident of your home, and you have an obligation to hold on to his property until he comes to get it, unless he, put your hand down, unless he abandons it. You have no right to take his clothes and put them on the curb, because if you took them and put them on the curb and burned them, you would be responsible. You have no right to do that.
But he has never so much as paid a cent living
I
in
don't
my house.
care. You allowed him to live in your home for 2 years. I'm
me.
speaking to you. He lived in your home for 2 years. Don't get in the middle. You're really dumb if you get in the middle, especially if you have 2 children who are babies themselves, and I probably believe you that both of them smoke pot and whatever else. So it's very possible that you 2 mothers-in-law and grandmothers are going to have to be responsible for this baby at some point, because certainly they're not responsible. And I would suggest that you try to maintain reasonable relations. He's allowed to take his child.
No, he's not. There's a TPO
No,
against him.
listen to me. At the time he took his child, there was no custody order. And in this country, the United States of America, one parent does not have any priority over custody over another when the 2 people are married.
But it didn't have anything to do with him pulling up with pot. He wanted the baby, had his mom waiting in the driveway. That's what he did.
Miss Strawn, you weren't there. And the fact that you are so committed to the baloney story that you have concocted in your head, because I believe her when she says that when he came back with the baby and said she's smoking pot on the driveway. I believe he said it. You don't believe it?
I don't, ma'am.
That's your problem. In any event, you have to pay for his clothes. How much were the clothes worth?
The total for the uniforms was $508.
What kind of uniform?
My work uniforms.
What kind of work?
The job he doesn't have anymore.
Mechanic.
You really...
He just got out of jail, for God's sakes.
You are really thick. You're really thick. You're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
I'm paying attention.
No, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is you're supposed to stay out of it. This genius picked this genius. Yeah. The only problem... Well, this is your genius, Miss Strawn. If he's no bargain, that's her problem. This genius belongs to you. She made a baby with him. He's not going to be out of your life. And that doesn't give you the right to vandalize his property. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $508. That's all.
Al Friedman is suing the current owner of his previous home, Mike Zarba, for the balance of a loan and for disposing of his valuable war memorabilia.
Mr. Friedman, you had a piece of property, a home.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, at first you leased that home to Mr. Zarba. And then there was a discussion about him purchasing the home. He ultimately did purchase the home.
Yes.
He had some trouble with getting an appropriate mortgage because of some credit problems that he may have had. And you loaned him the closing costs, which
Correct.
were $20,000, with a promise that he would repay that money within 90 days.
60 days.
60 days.
Correct.
So first it is your claim that he owes you some of that money, $2,800?
As of, no, it's $1,800
$1,800
left on the loan.
The second part of your lawsuit is that there was an agreement between the 2 of you that you could keep some property at the house, which you claim Mr. Zarba discarded.
Correct.
Mr. Zarba acknowledges that he discarded the property. He said that he gave you enough time to get it out, and he's not paying you the $1,800 that he acknowledges he owes on the original loan because he was forced to A, hire a dumpster to get rid of your stuff, and B, he stored it all that time. Is that right, Mr. Zarba?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you first rent this house, Mr. Zarba?
End of July 2004.
And when you rented the house, Mr. Friedman still had some property there in both the shed and in an attic?
Yes.
When did you purchase the house?
April 2005.
And when did Mr. Friedman loan you the $20,000?
The closing, but we had an agreement where I did some work for him, so it wasn't really a loan.
Listen to me. When did he loan you the $20,000, which you acknowledge in your answer?
It would be the beginning of April.
And how long were you supposed to have to repay this loan, Mr. Zarba?
In about 60 days.
Good. When does your receipt indicate that you hired this dumpster to get rid of his property?
August 5th.
When did you tell Mr. Friedman that you weren't going to pay him his $1,800 until he removed his property?
It was the end of July, right?
July what?
20th.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with Mr. Friedman.
Well, he showed up unexpected again. He treated me like I was a mini storage.
Listen to me. What conversation did you have with him?
The conversation was, you need to take care of your stuff, get it out, and we'll settle up.
Well, he came to your property
Yes.
looking for money. He didn't come there looking to take his stuff. He came there looking for his $1,800.
Well, it was $2,800 then. And I gave him $1,000.
And when you gave him the $1,000, you said, when you get the rest of your stuff out of here, you'll get your other $1,800.
Yes.
Is that what you said to him?
Yes.
And what did he say to you?
He said he was going to get it out. That was the only agreement we had.
And he said he would get it out.
He said he'd get it out.
Now, 2 weeks later, you disposed of his property.
Yes. Gave him till August 1st, in a few days.
Well, so far you didn't give him any time, sir. You didn't say that to me. You said, when you get your stuff out, I'll give you your money. That's what you said to me. I repeat, listen to me.
Okay.
I repeated it twice to you.
Okay.
What troubles me, Mr. Zarba, quite frankly, is your answer. The first line of your answer is the most telling part of your character. Use nothing. We were overcharged for the home, considering its condition. And he's lucky we didn't charge him for storing the items. That you wrote. So what you're saying is that after you lived there for a while and there were lots of things that you had to repair in the house, you didn't like the condition of the house, you said, I want to renegotiate in my own way the sale price of this house because I overpaid him for the house to begin with. You didn't write there that we had an agreement that we would store the stuff until August 1st. He didn't pick up the stuff August 1st. I hired a dumpster. No. The first thing that you wrote, the most important thing that you wrote was, I didn't like the purchase price. And I'm going to take another $1,800 out of the purchase price because I deserve that. That's not the way life works, Mr. Zarba. Is this your first house?
No, ma'am.
Well, I don't know what you did in your other houses, sir, but that's not the way you close a house. You close a house, you negotiate a price, that's the price. Once you purchase it, you don't say, I think I overpaid for this house. Let me see how I can get the price down a little bit. We understand each other, Mr. Zarba?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect! Mr. Friedman, I want you to tell me what stuff, and I want you to be very careful because I am an ecumenical abuser. I don't like when somebody tries to put one over late in the game, because that's what he did.
Yes.
I don't like when you try to put one over on me.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me what valuable items you left in the house.
And I made a list, and I'll go
you sure you want me to look at that list?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to take a look at it.
The largest items on that list were two major important pieces to me were I had military boxes marked with military. I had a frame of, when I was in Vietnam, of a load crew in front of a plane that had my military ribbons on it. I'm a disabled veteran from Vietnam. There's also boxes I had marked with kids' items that had finger paintings in it from the time that they were kids, and just paraphernalia that they did through the years.
What you're really telling me is that the only thing that were there was your memorabilia. That is valuable because two wooden Santa sleighs handmade, 2 coolers, 2 sets of Malibu yard lights. I don't want to deal with that, sir.
Correct.
I had 10 years of postgraduate work. I don't deal with this. If it was important to you, you should have gotten it out. Now, you just disposed of everything, Mr. Zarba?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, that was the wrong thing to do.
There was nothing in there that looked like it was anything somebody would save. I've got pictures here.
I'm going to take a look at your pictures. Right now. Can I see the pictures, please?
I mean, this is what he left me. It's not pretty.
Well, the shed's not pretty. First of all, get a new camera or take photography lessons. I don't know what this is. Grass. I don't know what this is. I have no idea, sir. This is a whole major blur. Are you doing
let
this on
him in
purpose?
several times.
Listen to me, sir. Are you doing this on purpose?
No, ma'am.
when you took a picture of the grass, I could see that this is
Yeah,
grass.
yeah.
This looks like a Hungarian goulash, sir.
It was in the attic.
Do you
The lighting
suffer from-
wasn't very good. I
It has
agree. The
nothing to do
pictures
with
don't look
listen,
great. but-
Listen to me, Mr. Zarba. This has nothing to do with lighting.
Okay.
This looks like somebody who's had a bad hangover took these pictures. All right. He had no right to destroy your property, sir.
Correct.
He had no right to take it away. He owes you $1,800 because he's a deadbeat on a loan that he made, and he owes you $1,500 for what he threw out. I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Suing him for $4,300, I think that's excessive, sir, for the junk that you left there for over a year. But he has to be taught a lesson that he can't dispose of your stuff. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,300.
Your Honor, can I-
That's it. Goodbye and
can I
good luck. Nothing.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nathan Heater says ex-girlfriend Rebecca Titus had him falsely arrested for physically abusing her. Rebecca claims he kicked her in the stomach during her pregnancy.
Mr. Heater, the defendant used to be your girlfriend.
Yes,
And according to your complaint, she had you falsely arrested for domestic violence.
correct.
Ms. Titus says that she did call the police. She had you arrested for domestic violence, and that's because you hit her. Correct?
Yes.
This incident happened on what date?
July 28th.
Now, Ms. Titus, I am correct that at one point in your relationship, you found yourself pregnant. And you told Mr. Heater that he was the father of this baby and that you miscarried. Is that
Yes,
what
ma'am.
happened? But it turned out that he was not the father of this child.
It could have not been his.
Right. And then you renewed your relationship again briefly. But that's all it takes, Mr. Heater. A brief moment of stupidity, and Miss Titus told you she was pregnant again. And according to you, you said, listen, I didn't know about last time, I don't know about this time. I don't want to have anything to do with this baby until I take a paternity test.
Actually, what I told her was that I would help her out as long as I would be repaid if the baby was not mine.
You didn't discuss that with me first. I would have told you that that was a very bad idea. However, on the evening of the 28th of July, according to you, and according to Miss Titus, she called you and wanted to come over to talk.
Actually, he called me.
Yes.
What did you call her for?
I thought that she had a doctor's appointment regarding the baby the previous day, and I just called to see how it went.
And what did Miss Titus tell you?
She said that I was wrong about the date, that I believe it was the next day, and that she would like to come over and speak to me. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. We speak face to face, that we should speak over the phone. And she said that she didn't want to speak over the phone.
So Mr. Heater told you not to come over.
Well,
you
no.
acknowledge that. He said he didn't want to talk to you
He
in person.
said that he didn't want to talk to me, but eventually said that it was okay for me to come over.
Did you tell her it was okay to
No,
come
I
over?
did not.
No, I don't believe that. It's not what you say in your answer, and I don't believe that. He said he didn't want to talk to you in person. He thought you should discuss whatever you had to discuss over the phone. But you went over there anyway. What time did you go over there?
About 12:30 in the afternoon.
What did you want to discuss with him?
I wanted to talk to him about the baby and about how things were going between us. We were, before this, we were going out and doing things together and like...
Don't you people know anything about birth control?
Yes, they don't work for me.
They don't work for you?
Yes. My body rejects them.
There are all kinds of birth control, Ms. Titus.
Yes, ma'am.
The answer to having a problem with one form of birth control is not to have babies with people who don't want to have children with you, like Mr. Heater or anybody else. So you went over there about 12:30.
I knocked at the door and he told me to come in and I upset him. And
how did you upset him?
I don't remember exactly what I said.
Maybe you
to
do.
him.
If you don't remember, maybe he does. What happened, Mr.
I
Heater?
was upset before she came into the house because I told her not to.
Come over.
And she started screaming through my door at me.
What was she saying?
You have to live up to your responsibilities. You can't create a situation and then not take care of
That
it.
doesn't sound welcoming, Miss Titus.
That never happened at all.
Go ahead.
So, to save myself from embarrassment from my neighbors, and I did open the door for her to try to,
So you let her in.
yeah.
And what happened when she came inside?
It just continued on the same thing in there. You have to take care of this. And, you know, I was trying to tell her I'm doing the best I can with this. I don't really know how to deal with this situation. Everything's so bad. I don't know what to do except for what I am doing, and that wasn't good enough for her. And for 30 or 45 minutes, she followed me around my house with me telling her to leave over and over and over again. She would not leave my house. And eventually I was in the kitchen sorting my dishes, and she came in and was pointing her finger at me, yelling at me in there, telling me the same thing, that I had to deal with my responsibilities at that point, I took her by the hand that she was pointing at me with and just turned her around facing the kitchen door. And I had hold of her elbows with my body pressed against her back and was just walking her towards the door. I was like, you need to leave now. And she grabbed onto the kitchen doorway and started pressing back against me. And when I finally backed off of her and she let go of the door, she turned around and grabbed my hand like this, and then she smacked me in the face and said I had no right to touch her. And as a reaction, my hand came back around too.
So you hit her?
Yeah, regrettably I did come back around. She went off towards what I thought was the front door, but as I was in the kitchen, I heard her dialing my phone. She told me then that she called the police.
Do you have a copy of the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Who is this gentleman, Mr. Heater?
This is my friend, Jason Hubbard.
Was he a witness to what happened on the 28th of July?
No, he wasn't.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Titus, tell me what happened, your version of what happened when you got into the house.
When I came into the house, we sat down on the couch and started to talk. At first, things were okay. Then I started talking about the baby and about this new girl that he's dating and how that her not liking me around is the real reason why he's not wanting to have anything to do with the baby. Then he got upset and told me to leave, and I told him no, he can't just end the conversation anytime he wants
yes, he can.
to.
He can tell you to leave his house. Go ahead.
I followed him around the house and was still talking to him, and we ended up in the kitchen, and I had said something about this girl he's dating, his girlfriend, and he doesn't like me to refer to her as that, so that made him really upset. And he came and he grabbed me by my arms and started to escort me through the door. And I stopped myself, told him he didn't have any right to put his hands on me at all.
Yes, he did.
Not according to...
Oh, yes, he did. Once he tells you that he wants you to leave his house and you remain there, you're trespassing. That's a crime. Next.
Well, according to...
Don't tell me according to anybody. You tell according to a police officer. I've had 10 years of postgraduate legal education. When you're in somebody's house and you're an invited guest, first of all, you weren't an invited guest in this house. I'm speaking. You weren't an invited guest. You were told not to come. You came anyway. He tried to avoid you and said, please leave. Once he told you to leave his house and you refused, you become a trespasser.
Well, another reason I didn't leave is because in previous arguments that we've had, he's asked me to leave, and then 10 minutes later he'll call me and tell me to come back over.
Well, you just have to guess his mood there. Right now he told you to leave, and you didn't leave, so he put his hand to escort you out. Mm-hmm. And what did you do?
I was pushing back against him, like you said, and I turned around, and he still had a hold of me when I smacked him in his face.
Right, so you smacked him in his face first.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he slapped you.
Twice.
Twice. You slapped him the first time, he slapped you twice. It's amazing to me that the police arrested you, sir. Absolutely amazing. Tried to get you out of the house. He's holding on to your arms. You're resisting him. Ultimately, you turn around. He's still pushing you, correct? Mm-hmm. And you slapped him. Mm-hmm. He slapped you then twice. Mm-hmm. Where did he slap you? In the face?
In the face.
And then he let go of you when you called the police. Mm-hmm. And you are there because you are pregnant.
Yes.
And you're concerned about the welfare of your baby.
Yes.
And that is the primary thing that you're concerned about, the welfare of your baby.
Yes.
So let me tell you what you told the police. Titus said that the defendant grabbed her by the arms and began to drag her out of his house, physically trying to remove her from the residence. She advised that she is pregnant with his child and that he pushed on her stomach. Was that meant to get the police really angry at him? Pregnant, he pushed on your stomach? You're full of baloney. And you had no right to have him arrested. And I'm amazed that they arrested him. He has a right to escort you out of his house if you refuse to leave. You hit him first. Did you hire a lawyer?
No, I had a public defender.
One of the things that I have to comment on is you're not too swift. If you're dating this girl and she tells you she's pregnant and it turns out it could have been you or somebody else, I wouldn't have had a wind through my head and then had intimate relations with her again, unprotected. Do we understand each other?
Completely.
Ms. Titus, you have to learn that domestic violence is a very serious crime. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you have a right to hit somebody and not expect to be hit back. And you have no right to lie to the police, because it was a lie what you told the police that he pushed you in your stomach while you were pregnant. That's not what he did at all, because that's not what you told me happened. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Tanya Blishak is suing her former co-worker, Julianne Rouse, for startup money to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Ms. Blishak, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant worked together in a hair salon period of time, and in addition to your regular work, you were making some money on the side selling Mary Kay Cosmetics. You tried to get Ms. Rouse to become a representative for Mary Kay and claimed that you sold her a quantity of product. You put it on your credit card because she asked you to, with the understanding that she would pay the credit card bill. She paid some, but not all, and you want the balance. Ms. Rouse says that you sort of pressured her into becoming a representative. She paid you back a total so far of $1,400 for the product that was purchased, according to her, without her consent. She stopped selling the product. She still has 6 boxes of it at home that you're welcome to have because she says she's paid enough.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I sold it for about a month.
That's a fib that you just told me, because you told me a moment ago that after a month, so that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tanya Blishak says former co-worker Julianne Rouse owes for a loan to buy Mary Kay Cosmetics. Julianne says the makeup was forced on her.
When did you start to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics?
September of 2001.
And what percentage do you get of what, for instance, Miss Rouse would purchase from Mary Kay?
At the time, I did get 13% on her order, but I would like to state...
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I just want to say that I explained to her completely and full detail that she does not have to order any inventory whatsoever. It is for her benefit to have inventory if she wants it, so that she can give it to her customers when they buy it from her. That's completely her option. She doesn't have to do it, and she chose to do one of the big ones.
When did she purchase this product?
In April of '04.
And how much did she purchase?
She purchased a $2,400 order.
Now, tell me under what circumstances you financed her order of $2,400.
It was with my credit card.
Why?
She had been a customer as well before, and I had no problems with her financially. She paid her orders. There was no problems. And she wanted to get started with a business. She said she didn't have a credit card and you can't pay cash. And she wanted to do it, and I told her that I would help her out. She was going to pay me back the next month, and we were going to be done with this.
From where was she supposed to get $2,400?
I don't know.
Who do you live with?
My husband.
Have any children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
7 months.
And you were working full-time?
No, ma'am.
Part-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I wasn't working for a while. I was going to school, and then I went back to work part-time at the salon. And at that time, my fiance at the time were living with roommates. We didn't have our own place.
So when you purchased this stuff, Miss Rouse, it was your intention to make this a part-time job?
Well, I was working part-time at the salon, and then I left there right about the same time this all happened to work full-time at a travel agency.
So was it your intention to work part-time selling Mary Kay Cosmetics?
At that time, yes.
Who selected the product that was purchased?
Miss Blishak did.
Without your input?
I didn't input. She did it online, and she ordered the things that she thought I needed at the time. And then about 5 weeks later, I needed different products, so I had to place another order on my own to get the products that I needed for my clients.
So you were, in fact, working?
For a little bit, yes.
So why didn't you finish paying her for the product?
And in the beginning, I did not want to sell the Mary Kay. She kept asking me to join. I thought if I joined it, it would be over and done with after the $115. So then after this, I decided that I would try it out.
Well, that's what she's talking about.
And she told me when she did this that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did. At the time, I couldn't do that. I was working full-time.
Well, that happened later. Miss Rouse.
Within the same week,
Miss
it happened,
Rouse,
ma'am.
listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something about buyer's remorse, which means that at the time you thought it was a good idea, and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done, as opposed to someone who fraudulently sells you something. I'm not getting the sense that Miss Blishak sold you anything fraudulently, especially since you ordered more product a month later. And you paid her $1,400. She paid you $1,400? When did you stop paying her?
August was the last payment I gave her.
And you were paying her prior to that time because she was selling product?
I sold it for about a month.
Or more? Because that's a fib that you just told me, Miss Rouse. Because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product to sell to your customer. So that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sounds to me, Miss Rouse, as a case of you didn't plan on getting pregnant, you planned on working full-time, you planned on selling this part-time. It all didn't work out because you left a part-time job, went to a full-time job, then you got pregnant, then you stopped working. Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You better start selling some Mary Kay cosmetics because you owe her some money. How much does she owe you with interest on your credit card?
$1848.02.
Can I see that, please? Mm-hmm. Why does she owe you $1848? What kind of interest do they charge you on your credit card?
It was 12.9.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have 6 boxes of product left?
Yes, ma'am. I have a list of everything I have.
Good. You better start selling it, Miss Rouse. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,848. That's all.
Parties are excused and they step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Macias versus Ayala, step forward, please.
Medical coder Alina Macias is suing the mother of her son's schoolmate, business owner Sandra Ayala, for the cost of her son's medical bills and pain and suffering. Alina says Sandra's boy injured her son with a pencil.
Step over there. No, you have...
Yeah, no.
Okay, you too.
What's your first name?
Nathaniel.
And yours?
Jonathan.
Nathaniel, you were injured in school.
Right.
With a pencil.
Yes.
You sat down, according to the complaint. You sat down on your chair, and you were stuck in the rear end with a pencil which lodged in your buttocks and had to be surgically removed. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it is your claim that this young man was responsible.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I assume that you didn't see how the pencil got there. Because if you had seen how the pencil got there, you wouldn't have sat on it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't see how it got there?
No, ma'am.
So Jonathan here is going to tell me, because I read the answer about the flying pencil, but I want him to tell me himself how the pencil got on his chair. So we're going to start from turn around and look at me.
12-year-old Nathaniel Mancha says his classmate, 12-year-old Jonathan Ayala, stuck him with a pencil. Jonathan claims it was an accident.
How old are you?
12.
How do you do in school?
Good.
How is your conduct in school?
Good, too.
Never have any complaints by the teachers?
A little bit only.
Speak up.
A little bit only.
And when the teachers complain about you a little bit only, what do they complain about?
Like sometimes talking and then like a little bit slacking off.
Now, you know Nathaniel, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long has he been in your class?
This year only.
Do you like him?
Uh-huh.
Did you play together?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the day that he was hurt with the pencil?
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how the pencil got on his chair.
Well, I was doing my work and like the pencil was like small, so I didn't want it anymore. So I wanted to throw it to the trash, and
It's just the pencil was small,
yes.
and you're sitting in your seat,
Uh-huh.
and you wanted to throw the pencil in the trash.
Yes.
Where was the trash?
Next to Nate's chair.
And how far away from Nate were you sitting?
At least like 2.5 feet.
So very close.
Uh-huh. But
So now you got this little pencil, and you wanted to throw it away, and the trash was right next to him.
yes, it was right next to his chair.
What were you going to use to complete your work?
Another pencil that I had on my desk, which was bigger.
So you had a little well on your desk where you could keep the pencils?
No, I always put my pencils next to my papers.
Do you have a book bag?
Yeah, in my backpack.
Where is your backpack?
I left it home that day.
What were you wearing to school?
My school emblem shirt and my jeans.
Your shirt have a pocket?
No.
Your jeans have a pocket?
Yeah, but they're tight.
You know you're pretty swift. You think that you're smarter than I am?
No.
You're not, Jonathan. Believe me, you're not. You know where I'm going with these questions?
Uh-huh.
Where do you think I'm going with these questions?
Trying to see if I'm telling the truth or not.
Yeah, trying to see if you could put the pencil someplace else rather than throw. What you're going to tell me is you threw the pencil into the trash. Or
No,
you
I
tried to throw it into the trash.
Yeah, I was going to.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And it landed straight up on Jonathan's chair. And he sat on it. Right?
I didn't land straight on the chair. It was going through the chair when he sat on it because he was...
It was in midair when he sat on it.
Yes, it was pointing up.
And he got hurt.
Uh-huh.
Well, whose fault do you think that is?
Mine.
Right. Now we're getting somewhere. Why is it your fault?
Because I threw a pencil.
Because you threw the pencil. You had choices. Right?
Uh-huh.
You chose throwing the pencil. Right?
Right.
So whether you threw the pencil and he sat on it or you placed it on his chair as sort of a joke, it's your fault. Right? See, I knew we'd get somewhere. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now you can sit down. I mean, Miss Ayala, quite frankly, you wrote the answer. You told me in the answer that this was nobody's fault. It was the pencil's fault. Next to your mother. It's not the pencil's fault. It's his fault. He had choices. And at age 12, he has to understand that there are consequences to making the wrong choice. His choice was he could have held on to the pencil. He could have put it in his pocket. He could have placed it on the floor. He chose to throw it, according to him, which way out, but not impossible. Certainly not his fault that he sat down on his chair, right?
Right.
So now your son understands that it's his fault and his responsibility that he got hurt. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Perfect. Good. Now can I see his medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of treatment did you get?
They put me under.
Under anesthesia?
Yes. And I had to get the pencil surgically removed from my buttocks.
Did you have any stitches?
Yes.
How many stitches did you have?
1.
Were you uncomfortable for a while?
Yes.
What did Jonathan say after you sat on the pencil? Did he apologize?
No.
Has he ever apologized to you?
No.
Have you spoken to him since this happened?
Yes.
Are you back to being friends?
Yes.
Good. Did you apologize?
No, I never got a chance to.
Well, now's a chance.
Sorry, Nate, for throwing the pencil.
Certainly, Miss Ayala, you don't expect the plaintiff to bear any of the cost of treating her son. They had almost $600 in unreimbursed medical bills, and that you are responsible for. Because as between the two of you, he's innocent and he's not. Whether he did it as a joke or whether he did it because he was negligent or because he wasn't thinking. So you are responsible for those medical bills. Are these your only bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Why does that choose? You may step out.
Because it was April Fool's, I thought it was a joke. He never made a malicious intent to hurt anybody. He started crying and panicking and that there was a pistol stuck in his rear.
I didn't mean to do it on purpose.
This wasn't a malicious act.
I think it was an April Fool's joke.
Ashley McLeod says former friend Justin Lawler owes for late fees associated with a broken window on her rental car. Ashley says police officers were forced to break into the car after Justin passed out drunk.
Miss McLeod, you and the defendant were friends. It's my understanding that you wanted to take a little day road trip together. You needed a car, so you rented a car on your credit card.
Yes.
And you were going from someplace to San Diego?
Actually, we were going from Austin, Texas to South Padre Island. And Justin had told me that he had to be on the rental car agreement because I couldn't rent the car by myself because I was under 21.
Okay, but the car was leased with your credit card?
Yeah.
Okay, and he was driving?
Yes.
What time did you rent the car?
We had gone that Friday. It was sometime in the afternoon to rent the car. And then we were going to leave for South Padre shortly after we had rented the car.
And you did?
Yep.
Was he drinking?
When the incident occurred, he had been to a few bars. He'd had a few drinks.
Well, that would be a yes.
Yes.
To make a long story short, what happened was he took the car to go from one place to another. I don't know where you were going. But according to you, pulled the car over and fell asleep. But fell into a dead sleep coma. because the police came up to the car and they tried to wake you.
It was actually parked in a parking spot.
They tried to wake you, and they couldn't wake you from this deep coma sleep. They banged on the door, they rapped with their baton, and then they feared for your safety. Since the car was locked, they busted out the window of the car in order to ensure that you were safe.
Ashley McLeod says former friend Justin Lawler owes for late fees associated in her rental car. Ashley says police officers were forced to break into the car after Justin passed out drunk.
Now, the car had to be taken in to be fixed. You paid for the window, but it took time, and she was charged $500 extra on her credit card that she feels as if you're responsible for, because but for the fact that you fell asleep in the car, it wouldn't have happened. That's your case.
Yes.
Mr. Lawler has an interesting defense that we are all breathlessly waiting to hear.
Well, when we first rented the car, I actually told her to get the rental car insurance, because that way if anything did happen, we would not be liable for the damages done. And at that time, she said that she had insurance. It would be $100 cheaper. The guy rang it up with the insurance on it for the rental car. And then she said, well, no, it'd be cheaper if we do it the other way. I didn't want to, because I had rented a car before and know that if you get rental car insurance, it covers everything. So she insisted on putting her current insurance on there. And once we got down there, her mom, she talked to her, told her the insurance was on there. And then her mom said if anything happened to that car, that their insurance would get dropped. So the insurance didn't cover the actual damages done at all.
Can I say something? What?
No!
Oh, sorry.
I'm not finished with him yet.
Sorry.
So let me understand his defense. His defense is she should have taken out the insurance.
Right.
That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds right to you?
Well, that sounds like what he said.
That sounds good. Why did you fall asleep in the car, Mr. Lawler?
Why did I fall asleep in the car?
Just a second. Is there an echo in here? I know that you think that it's going to give you an opportunity to think of a reason.
He wasn't sleeping.
I'll get back to you. Why did you fall asleep in the car?
I had a couple drinks and I passed out in the car, and it was parked in a parking spot.
There you go.
I was not driving the car, though, that night.
All right, Mr. Lawler, let's dissect what you just said to me.
Okay.
You think that because you talk fast that I'm not going to be able to dissect what you said to me? Okay. So you had had a few drinks and you passed out in the car.
I pulled the car over. I didn't drink.
That's what you just said. Had a few drinks. Now, where did you do this drinking?
I had a couple hotel rooms.
Not in bars. You were in hotel rooms.
No, I was actually... Sorry.
Who were you in hotel rooms with?
Just different kids we were selling tickets for our Akon party that next day.
How many different hotel rooms had you been in drinking that night?
Just a couple, actually.
Same hotel?
Just different ones.
Different hotels?
Yes.
How did you get there from one to the other?
I drove the first...
I drove.
The first one, yes.
Just a minute. I drove. And how'd you get to the second one?
The second one?
Yes,
My friend took me the second one in his car.
The second one. Your friend took you in his car, and you left your car where?
There's a condo that was parked at.
You didn't tell me you were in a condo, sir. You said you were in hotel rooms.
Well, that's what South Potter has, condos and hotels. We just go to different ones.
You told me you were in a hotel room. Do you see where we're going, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Cameras pick up everything. So do my eyes. I have very, very bad vision when I have to read something without my glasses. Far away, I can tell a smirk and an I gotcha from a mile away. What do you do for a living?
I'm a promoter for a production company.
They're usually pretty glib and pretty light on their feet. Promoters. I've been promoting myself for 3 times as long as you're alive. You owe her for the car. And you're going to pay her for the car because it was your fault.
Even though the insurance...
Your fault! Nobody laid you down, pried open your mouth, and poured alcohol down your throat. Nobody told you to fall asleep in the car. Nobody told you not to tell your friend, would you please take me back to one of these condos where I'm supposed to be staying tonight? Nobody told you any of that. You were drunk. You drove a car drunk. You passed out in the car. Your fault. You pay for it.
The remaining charges that he owes me for is $541.63.
Did you pay for your half of the rental?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $541.63. Thank you very much. That's all.
23-year-old Erin King is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old Avian Moses, for stopping payment on a rent check. Avian claims Erin kicked her out after 2 weeks of living together.
Ms. King, the defendant was your roommate for a short period of time. It is your claim that she moved out after an argument that you had, and she put a stop payment on her rent check.
Yes.
You want your rent.
Right.
And the defendant says that you kicked her out of the apartment, and therefore she doesn't have to pay you any rent. Ms. Moses, you moved into Ms. King's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I moved in approximately August the 4th, I believe, around the beginning of August.
Was it August 4th?
August 5th.
And you knew each other before?
Yes, we did.
Through college.
What was the rental arrangement?
The rental arrangement was that we would both split the rent equally, $305 including utilities. She was supposed to pay me on the 3rd of each month.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she move out?
She moved out November the 14th.
Had she paid you November's rent?
Well, she wrote me a check when I went to the bank to cash it.
That's the rent check that she stopped paying.
Right, and I have that as well.
So that was November 14th. So far you were in the apartment from November the 3rd to November the 14th.
Yes.
So you should have paid rent.
Yes.
On what date did you give her the rent?
Probably the 7th. It was after the time that I was supposed to give it to her. Oh, yes, ma'am, the 7th.
Why were you late with your rent?
Well, a week before that, my purse had gotten stolen, and I didn't have a bank card. I had to change all my accounts, and during this time when I was changing the numbers and all, getting everything straight, I informed Erin of this. I said, I don't have a checkbook, I don't have a bank card. I said, can I just pay you next week once my accounts are in order? She said, yes, no problem. I said, I'll pay you a late fee. She said, okay, no problem, and I did so.
You paid her the rent?
Yes, and a late fee.
Which you owed her?
Yes.
And the late fee?
Yes.
Now, why did you stop payment on the check?
Me and Erin had been having problems living together for about a month. She was in an abusive relationship. It was constant fighting in the apartment. Her boyfriend would come over, get high, smoke weed, hit on me. She'd leave him in there. She gave him a key to the apartment. She would constantly fight with me over food, saying I was stealing from her. We got into a physical altercation, and I decided this was the last straw. She was not on the lease and to get out of her house. So I said, gladly, I'll stop paying my rent check, and I'll leave your house immediately.
Well, you can't do that. A, you didn't tell her you were stopping payment on the rent check.
I did tell her I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Really? No.
She
You didn't
called
even
me.
say that in your answer, that you told her you would leave
She
immediately.
called me that same day, and I told her I was stopping payment on my rent check and I was moving out.
You may have told her that after she called you on the phone, but when you had the argument with her in the house...
No, she told me to leave. She told me this was her apartment and to leave.
On the phone or in person?
No, when we had our physical altercation.
I understand that. You're not putting on your listening ears.
I'm sorry.
At the time you had this altercation and this argument, you did not say to her, I'm putting a stop payment on the rent check. According to you, you told her over the phone that you were putting a stop payment on the rent.
I apologize for not mentioning that, but I did tell her at the point when we were after the physical altercation, the police that came, I told her that I was leaving and I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Unless, of course, she changed the locks.
Yes, that's exactly what she did.
When did you change the locks?
I changed the locks on the 14th. That was because she had been going through my belongings. She had actually stole from...
Just a second. You can't change the locks and ask for rent at the same time.
Well, I actually changed the locks after she did the stop payment on the check. After they gave me the check back from the bank, I went to the bank on the 11th. They told me at the bank I need to take this check back to Ms. Moses. They couldn't tell me why because it was concerning her account. After I left the bank, I said, Avian, I just left the bank. They gave me the check. She said, I'm not paying you anything. I'm moving out.
That's not correct.
And so after that, I later discovered that she had been in my room while I was out of the apartment.
Ms. King, can't have it both ways. If you change the locks on the apartment, making it impossible for her to come back to the apartment, you can't charge her for rent for the entire month.
She did come back to the apartment. After we got into the argument on that Sunday, the police came.
Who called the police?
She did. Even though she started the altercation, she was threatening me with an alcohol bottle, saying that she was going to hit me upside my head with it. While the police was there, I said, it's fine. She can stay, for the next 3 weeks. It won't be any problems. She left that Sunday. She actually came back that Monday and spent the night, even after she told me that she was moving out, and she had started to move her stuff out.
When did she finally move the last bit of property out of the house?
She didn't finish moving out because after I had the locks changed, I called her and I let her know that I had the locks changed and to call me and make arrangements to get the rest of her belongings. I guess she was angry because I had the locks changed, and she said, well, you're stealing my property. She was with her mother. I said, no, you can come in and get your stuff. I even gave her mother a futon cover that was in the living room and a financial aid paper. I guess, you know, it has her financial information. I kept telling them, please come in and get the rest of your stuff. I even, you know, gave them that. I wasn't.
When did she take it out, or did she still not?
She left after I gave her mother the futon cover and the Norfolk State financial aid booklet. They said, we don't want the rest of the stuff. We're leaving, and they left it. And so she left a bed, a dresser,
Did you leave
clothing.
a bed and a dresser there?
Yes.
Ma'am, because yes, I did, because she wouldn't allow me to get it. She changed the locks.
Listen to me. You didn't sue her, did you, for your stuff?
Yes, I did. And the court ordered her to give it back to me, and I didn't get it back until January the 1st of 2007.
Oh, so you did sue her. This is
Yes,
not
I
the
did.
first time you've been in small claims court.
No, ma'am.
Really? I got it. Miss King, you're only entitled to half a month's rent. Change the locks, but you're entitled to half a month's rent. $150, $250.
Okay.
Right? That's what your half a month's rent is.
Yes.
And that's what you offered to pay her.
Yes, I did. She said she didn't want it.
$150, absolutely right. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
20-year-old suing her former friend, 19-year-old Eric Smith, for the cost to bail him out of jail after he was arrested for unpaid speeding tickets.
Ms. Hubbard, you claim that Mr. Smith owes you money for bailing him out of jail.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith acknowledges that you bailed him out of jail, but he said that that was your choice. He never agreed to pay you back the money, right?
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
What do you do to keep yourself occupied?
I'm a full-time student and I work.
Full-time student where?
Longview Community College, Kansas City, Missouri.
And you work for whom?
Walgreens.
And what were you arrested for, Mr. Smith?
On speeding charges, tickets that I didn't pay, warrants.
Speeding, tickets, warrants. How many?
8.
How do you manage to get all these tickets if you're a full-time student and working at Walgreens?
What it was when I was in high school, I racked up a lot of tickets, like speeding tickets, and I didn't have a job in high school because I played football, and I didn't work, and I never paid them off.
And how do you know Miss Hubbard?
I met her at the club.
Now, were you dating each other or you just knew her?
It was like kind of like that in-between thing where not really friends, but not really together either.
I see. Who is this smiling person over here?
This is my friend Robin.
How long have you known Robin?
About 6 years now.
So he's a good friend of yours?
Yes.
Better friend to you than Miss Hubbard, right?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Well, he schlepped all the way to court with you, didn't he?
Yeah.
From Missouri?
Yeah, from Missouri.
And who do you live with?
I stay with my dad right now.
So you have a father?
Yes.
And I guess he's known you for at least 19 years, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have a mother?
Yes.
She's known you for at least 19 years.
Yes.
Now, Robin here, he didn't bail you out of jail.
No, he didn't.
So he must not like you so much.
Nah.
And your father didn't bail you out of jail, right?
Right.
He didn't like you so much.
No.
Your mother didn't bail you out of jail.
No.
Right? She didn't like you so much.
No.
You have grandparents?
Yes.
Yeah, how many?
I actually have one.
Grandmother?
Yeah, grandmother.
She didn't bail you out of jail either.
No, she didn't know, actually.
I guarantee you she knew.
Okay.
So how long were all these loving people who were really attached to you, how long did they let you sit in jail when you got arrested?
The whole time.
How long was that?
It was 3 weeks.
3 weeks? I mean, we're not talking about we'll let him stay overnight to teach him a lesson, right? We're letting Mr. Full-Time Student Employee at Walgreens stay in jail 3 weeks. But then, according to what I managed to put together here, they were going to move you from one jail to another because you served your time on a whole bunch of tickets in one county, but then there were other counties looking for you. Is that right?
Yeah.
You ever hear of a man for all seasons? This is a man for all counties. So when they were going to move you, somehow Miss Hubbard bailed you out of jail.
Yes.
Were you happy to be out of jail?
Yes, I was.
How happy were you?
I was very excited.
And how did Miss Hubbard find out that they were going to move you from one jail to another?
I told her.
You told her?
Yeah, I told her.
Did you tell your mother?
No, I didn't tell my mother.
Did you tell your father?
Yes, I told him.
Did you tell Robin?
No, I didn't tell Robin.
Didn't tell Robin either,
No,
but
I
you
didn't.
told your father?
Yes.
And what'd your father say? Bye.
Yeah.
But not Miss Hubbard.
No.
She bailed you out.
Yes.
So what do you think you ought to do?
I told her thank you. I did. I told her thank you.
You told her thank you?
Yeah, I told her thank you. I never agreed to pay her back, so.
What did you say when you called her?
I just told her the situation, that I was done serving my time at that jail and that they were transferring me to a different jail. And she didn't want to see me in jail no more than I wanted to see myself in jail. So she proceeded to bail me out.
Oh, okay. Now, Miss Hubbard, why don't you tell me how it came about that you bailed him out of jail?
Well, he caught me July 19th, which was a Thursday. I knew he was going to the next jail the next day. So he basically talked about how he was tired of being there and that he didn't want to serve the days that he would be serving at the next county. He asked me if I had some money. I told him I didn't at that moment, but I had got paid that Friday. And he basically went into, you know, my bail is $220. If you have the money, I'll pay you back. I don't want to be in jail anymore.
That sounds right. That sounds like what people say.
That's not what I said.
How many times did your father bail you out of jail?
About 4 times before that.
And each time that your father bailed you out of jail, did you pay him back?
No.
That's why he didn't pay you out anymore.
Right.
How are you going to pay back? How much was his bail?
It was $250.
Well, what happened when you asked him for your money back?
I never got a chance to really ask him for the money back because he basically ignored my phone calls. And the last time I saw him, though, he had told me to come back and that he was going to give me some of the money. And after that, when I had called him back, I basically got ignored.
You mean after you bailed him out, he cut you off?
Basically, yeah.
That's not nice, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, can I say something in my defense for
Yeah.
that? I didn't like the way that she was treating me. Like the lifestyle that she wanted to live when I got out of jail. She wanted me to like stop hanging out with my friends that I know like way longer than her. She was real controlling and she was like real possessive and I just didn't want to talk to her anymore. So I just cut her off.
I'm going to say something to you that you've probably heard on a lot of commercials. Stay in school, okay?
Okay.
You need it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $250. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Explain it to Bert, or would you like me to do it?
The nature of the business?
Yes.
Essentially, I have my friend Ronald here who has been in the business for 12 years, and he...
Ronald doesn't have to explain it.
Okay.
I'm going to, in stick terms, explain it to Bird. You tell me if I'm wrong.
All right.
Simple. You have this vitamin bottle, because that's what they sell, vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronald, that's this guy over here, he's been in the business 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
He sometimes sells these vitamins. But what he does mostly is get other people under him who sell vitamins. And depending upon at what level they buy in, they could buy in with $500 or $1,000 or $2,000, they get product. He brings him in, Mr. Sincere over here, buys $5,000 worth of product. He gets a piece of that.
Sure.
So it's like slavery, you know. What you do is he brings in, what's your first name?
Damien.
He brings in a lot of Damiens. Damien 1, Damien 2, Damien 3, Damien 4. And whatever Damien orders from the business, not sells, but orders from the business, Ronald gets a piece of.
Multi-level marketing.
Correct. Now, so then it inures to Damien 1 through 5. They say, listen, we want to be Ronald too.
Of course.
So we're going to see if we can get, what's your name? Amy. A whole bunch of Amy's under us to buy as much product as he can, because they get a piece of whatever Amy buys.
Of course.
And
him
they
too.
also, and so does Ronald.
That's right.
Because Ronald gets a smaller piece of Amy, but he still gets a piece of Amy. And then, what's your name?
Damien.
What's your name?
Cody.
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 Amy then says, I want to get a whole bunch of Codys because that's the way I'm going to make my money. And he's going to get a little piece of Cody, and he's going to get a smaller piece of Cody, but everybody's going to get a piece of Cody. That's the way the game works.
Oh, yeah.
Got it?
That's right.
Pretty much. Now, you also reach certain levels in this business, because if you're a master, or if you're a guru, or if you're a titan, or if you're an Ogatunji, whatever it is, what happens is they give you perks.
Oh, yeah.
Do you get perks in your business, like a car?
If you get high enough, you do. Yeah, I'm not there yet.
You think this is a scheme that I haven't been through a couple of times in my life?
No, I didn't say that.
All right, I got it. So if you get up really high, if you get to be a Grandmaster Ungatunji, they give you a BMW.
Of course.
Or they give you a Mercedes. So there are advantages for Ronald to get a whole bunch of Damians, and for Damians to get a whole bunch of Amy's, and for Amy's to get a whole bunch of Cody's, because in addition to getting the money, you also get the perks. That's the drill. Now, Damien over here got Amy involved in the business, and she bought inventory. How much worth, sir?
It was worth $5,000.
What are you asking him for? The questions are going to get harder.
Oh my! I think it was worth about $5,000, and he actually put up $3,300.
Okay, but you put up the money for her.
Yes, I did.
On your credit card.
Yes, I did.
Because you were hoping that she was going to do well in the business, and she wasn't such a good salesperson. And she couldn't find a Cody. If she killed herself, she couldn't find a Cody. So you ended up getting stiffed for your money.
Correct.
And she sent back some of her product.
Right, some of it.
But you want, because you're stuck with the bill now, Mr. Ugatunji yet.
Right.
There isn't any such thing as a
there may be,
Grandmaster
not that high up.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of made that up because it sounded funny. So you want her to pay you the money. Miss Brown says you gave her all kinds of sales pitch. You told her she was going to make a fortune, that there were Codys floating around under every rock, that she was going to be able to sell these vitamins, that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And she couldn't do it because she was no salesperson. And since you didn't help her, she sent back the product that she hadn't used. If you have the bill, that's your problem. Okay, we have certain things that we understand. We understand that he bought in for $3,300 and put it on his credit card. That is an agreed state of fact. It is also agreed that you agreed to pay him back that money for starting you in this business. This was going to be your business. You were going to be a grand female Ugatunja. Didn't work out. Wasn't your thing. So what did you do?
I asked for his help several times.
How did you do that?
Either phone conversations or via email.
And what did he say to you?
Usually it was, yeah, we need to get together and talk about this, which never happened. And after so many attempts, I just sent all the product back.
And what did he say?
He was fine with it as far as I knew. I told him I was going to do it, and he said he understood.
So, when did he decide to sue you?
I just was served about 2 weeks ago.
When was this that you sent back the product?
Believe it was May or June of 2006.
So why did you wait to sue her, sir? Is not an answer.
Okay. I wanted to work with Amy to give her an opportunity to pay back the remaining balance.
Well, had you asked her for it?
Of course.
How many times did you ask her for the balance?
Numerous. Both on the phone, and then when she started not returning my phone calls, our relationship was degraded to emailing. And I have in emails that she said she would indeed pay back the remaining balance.
Can I see it, please?
May I say something else, Your Honor?
Yes.
I absolutely did make every attempt to not only talk to Amy on the phone, but to get together with her, to involve her in opportunity meetings. Ronald also met her in Anaheim for a meeting. I feel like we put forth a very fair and aggressive effort to assist her with this.
It is clear to me that over the course of several months, you agreed to pay him.
And I agreed to make payments.
So why didn't you?
Because at the time I had lost my job, I was laid off, and I just bought my condo. And
you just bought your condo?
I just bought a condo, and then I was laid off, and then I was trying to get caught up with my other bills, which were a priority.
Well, then you acknowledged this debt to him.
A portion of it.
Well, which portion of it, madam?
I agreed to, okay, he had agreed to help me with.
Listen, we're beyond that. We had agreed to help you. Now I have emails where you clearly acknowledge the debt, which belies what you told me, that he breached his contract to help you, which is why you don't have to pay him. So now we know that you agreed to pay him. So I'm asking you why. Is it because you bought a condo?
No, the condo was prior to even meeting him.
Well, so what does that have to do with paying him back?
Well, no, I had been laid off, and that's when I met him, and he convinced me to do this so that I could make money. Then
it didn't work out, and you returned the product, and you still said, I'm going to pay you. So what stopped you?
Well, I didn't agree with the amounts that he was saying I owed him.
Well, how much do you say you owe him? That's where I started 5 minutes ago.
Okay. I believe I owe him maybe $1,000 just based on the portions of it that I was able to sell.
Well, how much did you sell?
Maybe a couple $100 worth to just friends.
Where are your records?
There's no record. I mean, you sell the container to people for cash.
What do you mean, you sell it for cash and then you don't report it to anybody? Not even the government? How do you expect to pay your taxes?
Well, I don't know. This to help me with.
He's not supposed to help you with that. This is your business.
Well, this is what he promised to help me with. I have the emails where he stated he promised to help me as well.
How much product? $3,300. How much product did she send back?
She returned $699.30, which was credited to my credit card, and she gave me a personal check for $300.
And you cashed it?
Of course.
Good.
Also, Your Honor, originally I gave Amy a can, 2 cans of product, which I said you can pay me back for. Just give me the same cans once you get your order, and she never did, so I had added that in as well.
You're going to have to live with that, sir. Damien.
Okay.
So she returned $700 worth of product, bringing it down to $2,600, and she gave you $300, leaving a grand total of $2,300. And
they actually prorated that, that they don't refund you the full amount. So they only give you, I think, 80 to 90% back.
And
that's what was credited to his credit card.
Well, that's all right. He has to be made whole. You're a big girl. How old are you?
36.
What?
36.
36. 36 years old. You make a decision. It doesn't work out. You have to take care of the consequences. These are slick guys. This is the way they make a living. They find people who are young, looking to start a new life, start a new business, not worked out in other fields, and they say, listen, you can make a lot of money. And some people make a lot of money. Ronald makes a good living, right? Damien, I don't know. Do you make a good living?
I'm working on it.
Well, how much did you earn last year?
With Just Relive?
Yes.
I'd have to look at my tax return.
Let's try to give me a round ballpark figure, Damien.
I'm going to say probably around $8,000.
8? You make a lot more. You've been there 12 years.
Yeah.
How long have you been in, Damien?
About 3 years.
Oh, when you're there 12 years, you're going to have that Mercedes you want.
I hope so.
What kind of car do you drive, Ronald?
I drove a BMW.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
There are always ways to figure out who's telling the truth, Mr. Malabar. I can't get it from one source, I get it from another. Don't you feel foolish? 10 million people are going to...
Real people, Judge Judy. Damien Cecere says he helped friend Amy Brown with a loan to get started in a vitamin-selling business. Damien claims Amy has yet to pay him back.
Now...
Can I say something?
Sure.
The business has a 1-year money-back guarantee. So at any point, she could have returned the product and got 90% of her money back. The business isn't designed for people to fail. If they don't want to do it, if they get a new job, that's okay. So if there was ever a discrepancy, she could have returned all the product and Damien would have got reimbursed. So.
But she didn't.
Right.
She's got to pay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Amy has a very dynamic personality. She knows a lot of people. That's why I thought she'd be successful.
He was a friend, and I was in a bad position and needed the money.
I feel bad because I like Amy, and I wish her good luck on whatever she decides to do.
I believe there's a few people that can make it, and the rest just kind of fall by the wayside.
It's unfortunate. I guess it's part of life. We've moved on. No hard feelings against Amy.
All parties in the matter of Christopher versus Dixon. Step forward, please.
Charnita Christopher is suing her former friend and child care provider, Vashni Dixon, for her share of money paid to Vashni by the state. Vashni is countersuing for unpaid child care fees.
Miss Christopher, Miss Dixon was a friend of yours.
Yes,
and it
ma'am.
is your claim that at some point she needed some assistance. You needed some assistance with child care, and the state was paying for your child care costs.
Yes,
You engaged Miss Dixon to watch your children with the following arrangement, that she would share those child care responsibilities with your aunt, and then they would split the check. It is your claim that when Miss Dixon got the check, she kept the whole check for herself, and you want half the check so that you can give it to your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Dixon says that there was no aunt, that she watched the children, but that you wanted her to split the county check. You would keep half, and she would keep half. And she felt that that was very unfair since she had the responsibility of watching the children. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is nonsense. Her counterclaim wants you to pay the difference between what the county paid for child care and what she thinks she deserves for child care, the overage, because that's what it says in the contract. That's not the contract you had with her, Miss Dixon.
When she told me, we made the agreement.
Miss Dixon, that wasn't your agreement that she was going to pay you extra.
She was supposed to pay me $4 an hour. The state was supposed to pay that to me. They did not. She didn't tell me that they wouldn't pay all of that. It's her responsibility to pay.
It's not her responsibility.
How is it not her responsibility?
Because I say so. Because that wasn't your contract with her. Now, how many children do you have?
3.
How long have you been receiving child care money from the state for the 3 children?
Approximately a year.
Starting when?
It started again March 27th of 06.
And where were you working in March?
I wasn't working. It was for me to be able to look for employment at that time.
Well, did you find employment?
I found employment July 3rd. I was hired at Glamour Shots.
So you're telling me from March 27th until July 3rd, the state was paying you to look for a job?
Yes.
To watch your children?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she start to babysit for you?
August 7th, 2006.
And where were you working at that time?
I wasn't working.
Well, what happened to the job that you started in July?
Oh, August, Glamour Shots. I'm sorry, Glamour Shots.
Are you still working there?
No, ma'am.
When did you stop working there? It's very easy to find out by calling them. When
August
did you
15th.
stop?
August 15th. I have my check stubs.
All right, so you worked there for a month?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you leave there?
Because they weren't giving me enough hours.
Well, so you left that job because they weren't giving you enough hours and you went to the situation where you weren't working at all?
Yes, ma'am. There was a lot of other issues with that job.
So the county wasn't really getting a great bang for their buck by paying for your 3 children for daycare while you're looking for a job, and you had a job for a total of 1 month when you quit because they weren't giving you enough hours. Something doesn't sound right there, Miss Christopher. So she started working August 7th, and now a week later you're not working. So what are you doing when she's watching your children?
Out looking for work.
What does that mean?
I have to go to the workforce center, and they work with me to help me look for work.
Well, how many days a week do you go to the center?
It could be 4, sometimes 5.
Could it be 3?
It depends on what my job counselor...
When did you go to work?
Where did I go to work?
When? First
I haven't. I'm looking for work right now. My children are not in child care right now at all.
So she started to work on August 7th. And when did you stop working?
I left her house on September 4th, I believe.
So you were there for 4 weeks?
Yeah.
How many hours a day did you watch the children, or did you live in her house?
She'd leave around maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and she wouldn't get back till like 8 o'clock at night.
What about this aunt? Do you know anything about an aunt?
I never heard anything about her aunt watching her kids before this.
Where's the aunt?
She's at home.
She's not here?
No.
Well, how do you expect to prove to me that somebody else babysat for your children?
I have the proof.
Show me. What kind of proof are you showing me?
Oh, it's the hours that my aunt kept the children. She typed this up. She has the license.
I don't accept that, Miss Christopher. That's hearsay.
Okay. Well, that's what I have.
Well, your case is dismissed. My dear, she got a check for watching your children. You have no proof that somebody else watched your children. Ridiculous. Case is dismissed, that's all. So is your counterclaim. Goodbye.
Please excuse, you may step out.
Vashni knows that she did not keep my children for those days, and she knows that.
She's a liar, and I don't appreciate liars.
We were friends.
She was like, well, I'll just quit my job and take half your check. I never agreed to it. That's just what she said.
I helped her.
How she was helping me, I don't know.
I don't believe in friends. I have family, and that's it.
I don't think Charnita knows what the definition of a friendship is.
I'm done helping people.
I know it's fraud.
Danielle Hines says her former live-in boyfriend, Devin Kilpatrick, owes for rent and the return of property. Devin says he moved out after Danielle filed for a restraining order.
Ms. Hines, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You
Yes.
lived together. He's also the father of your child.
Yes.
You had a lease together. He moved out 4 months prior to the lease terminating.
Yes.
You took him to court for 2 months of the 4 months.
Yes.
Because the other 2 months hadn't passed yet. And you got a judgment against him for those 2 months.
Yes.
Now you want the last 2 months of the rent that he owes you. And you also claim that you had a lot of pain and suffering because he wasn't a nice guy.
Yes.
Well, forget pain and suffering. You don't get paid for pain and suffering. You terminate a relationship for pain and suffering. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. So you want your rent.
Yes.
Mr. Kilpatrick has a very good excuse for not paying the rent for the last 2 months.
Yes, I do, ma'am.
He says that the reason he didn't pay rent for the last 2 months is because you filed a restraining order against him and his mother, and so he couldn't live in the apartment, and if he couldn't live in the apartment, then he wasn't going to pay rent.
Not
That's
true.
his defense.
Yes.
So, when did you move into the apartment?
We moved in March 14, 2006.
And you were both on the lease?
Yes, we were.
And when did you leave, sir?
I'm not exactly sure.
When did he leave?
November 9th, and they filed for the restraining order. He was
November 9th?
Yes.
2006?
Yes.
And when did you file a restraining order against him?
I filed November 2nd, but he was served November 14th at 5:55 a.m.
But you had filed it on November 2nd?
Yes.
I want to see the allegations that you put in the restraining order application. Thank you. You filed this on November the 2nd, and according to this, it says the most recent date of abuse was September 10th, 2006. And you say he strangled me to the point that I could not scream anymore. He also stated that he would only get a slap on the wrists.
If he did it again.
It would be something he would hit me because it was his first offense. And you filed this 2 months later. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Between September 10th and November the 2nd, when you went to the police to file for this restraining order, where were you living?
I was staying there, but he wasn't.
You were in the apartment?
Yes.
And he was not living there?
He was still living there, but he never came home. He was in and out. He would go to his mom's house. We were sleeping in separate bedrooms. I was sleeping in my daughter's room, and he was sleeping in our bedroom.
Fine. So then my question, 2 months later, what prompted you to go to the police?
I don't have transportation. Not only was I trying to get to the courthouse to file a restraining order on him, everything in between then, I was going to the police station. I was always talking to the police about what I can do about our child and him getting out of the apartment, but not necessarily him moving out because I still needed him to pay his half of the rent.
Just a second. You asked for, in your restraining order, a stay-away order asking that he may not be within 15 feet from you. How was he supposed to be within 15 feet from you if he was still living in the apartment?
Because at the time, whenever he would come home, he would go in his room, and I'll either be sleeping in the living room on the floor or in our bedroom.
Listen, did you want him out of the apartment or in the apartment?
I wanted him to stay because he was still on
Then
the
there was
lease.
no reason for you to file for a protective order.
I just
It's
didn't want him to
nonsense.
hit me again.
You said that the last time he put his hands on you was when he choked you 2 months before. That's what you swore to in here.
Yes.
So that there had to be a reason, 2 months later, that you went to the police, you managed to find your way to the police.
Yes.
And file this protective order.
I went to the courthouse to file that.
Listen, you're not being honest with me. He moved out. He had a right to move out. He would have been crazy to stay there. Absolutely insane to stay there with a protective order. When all you have to do is pick up the phone, call the police, they come, they arrest him, and all you have to do is say he threatened me, and he finds himself in jail. So he would be insane to stay in the apartment.
May I please say something?
Sure.
It says right here that he was not even served. He didn't even know I had a restraining order on him until after. I'm telling you.
It doesn't make any difference whether he knew or not, madam. You knew.
Yes.
So how dare you come here knowing that you had the restraining order, that you didn't serve on him for another couple of days, but you knew you had it, and still want him to pay rent?
Because his name was still on the lease. I did not ask Devin to leave. They said 15 feet because his name was still on the lease. They could not kick him out. I had no choice. I didn't want him to put his hands on me again, Judge.
Good.
I was afraid. I didn't know what else to do.
I understand. You should have left. Should have left. But you can't go get a restraining order on him and say you have to stay in the house, despite the fact that I have a restraining order on you.
Okay.
So now you are like my prisoner. You look at me cross-eyed, I'm going to call the police. Whether he did anything bad to you in September or not, I don't know. Certainly you didn't go to the police in September. So he would be nuts to stay with you. And now you come to court and you say, I want him to pay the rent.
Yes, because...
When he did nothing to you in November, nothing to you in October, nothing to you 3 weeks in September. If I believe that you got into a fight and he put his hands on you in September, I'm not condoning that.
Okay.
And if you put him out right away, I would have said okay.
Okay.
And if I believed that he choked you in September, I would have said, you're bad. You have to pay the rent. Okay. But when you wait 2 months, there's something else going on.
I tried.
Okay, I'm trying to. Believe me, I'm trying.
I did everything I could to get to the police department. I went throughout the month of October to get information on what I could do because he's the father of my child. I was trying to ask for information about child custody and what I could do about everything.
I'm not talking about child custody.
I'm talking domestic violence.
I'm talking about a restraining order.
Okay.
Not child custody, not support, not anything else. Just about the fact that you were in abject fear of him and in need of a protective order that excluded him from the house. Because not to be within 15 feet of you is a ridiculous order against somebody that you expect to live in the apartment with you. Ridiculous. I'm telling you, you cannot live with somebody with a restraining order and expect them to stay in the apartment. Because of the way the laws are recognized now, all you have to do is call the police and say, he looked at me cross-eyed, I want him arrested. And then he's there on a violation of a protective order, which allows them to incarcerate him for up to 6 months by just looking at you cross-eyed.
But those were not my intentions.
Oh, listen, I don't care what your intentions were or not. The fact is you did have a restraining order against him, and he was perfectly right to leave because you didn't go and file that restraining order at the time you allege he hurt you. You waited 2 months. So there was some other agenda that you had, and I don't know what that was because you look at me, like you don't understand what I'm talking about. But then you were served with a restraining order and you came back into the apartment with your mother.
No, not my mother.
When?
Around, I guess, a week later.
After you were served?
Yeah, I came, I got all my stuff, and then that was it.
Not true.
You came and you got some of your stuff, included the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's what she's annoyed at because the refrigerator, she said, was given to both of you as a couple by your mother.
She didn't give it to us both as a couple.
I don't care. Yeah, she did at the time because you were both eating out of the refrigerator, I assume. But he's allowed to keep the refrigerator.
It was not a week later. It was the same day because I had to purchase a refrigerator the very same day. I have the receipt with the date.
But I don't understand what you want, and I don't understand what your pain and suffering is.
Because I almost had a miscarriage. I had to be taken out of school literally. On November 29th, my doctor had to write me an excuse because I had to keep on being rushed to the hospital. And I have all the hospital papers stating that I had
You have a hospital paper that says it's his fault that you almost had a miscarriage?
Well, it was stress.
Of course it's stressful. Life is stressful, madam. Life is stressful.
Yes, it is.
Life is stressful. You don't want to be stressed until you're sure about somebody. You shouldn't get pregnant by them.
Actually, those were my intentions either.
Well, not your intentions. What you do is you take care.
But I was on birth control. I have the papers proving that I was on birth control. You would like to see it?
Well, I suggest you sue the birth control company because it failed. Listen to me, Miss Hines. Are you living in the apartment now by yourself?
Yes. No.
Well, how are you supporting yourself?
I had money that was saved up, and I spent all that money on the rent.
How old are you?
I'm 20 and a half.
So why don't you go to your father or your mother's house? You're 20 years old and you have a baby. He should pay child support, but he's not going to support you. You're not his wife.
No,
He said he'll contribute to the support of his child. He absolutely should do that.
But he's
Are you paying child support?
No, not yet.
Why not?
She just, I don't know, she just filed it, I guess.
She doesn't have to file it. Did you see your baby?
Yeah.
Well,
no.
You have to take care of your baby.
I see him when I can. I work about 6 days a week, so I can't be there all the time.
Well, if you work 6 days a week, then what you should do is you should have enough money to help support him.
But he doesn't.
And you don't need a court order to tell you that, sir. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
I should see the money coming out of your wallet right now.
Please, for some diapers. I would like some diapers.
Listen to me. Don't talk to him.
Okay, I won't.
I should see money coming out of your wallet now. Did you hear what I said?
I heard you.
Get it out.
Don't have none in my wallet.
How could a man who works 6 days a week not have any money in their wallet?
I don't keep money in my wallet.
Where do you keep it?
In the bank.
Good. How much money do you have in the bank?
Don't know.
Well, I've got news for you, sir. When ultimately you're going to want to see this child, and the tape of this is going to be available for her, for whatever, you get no sympathy from me if a father needs a court order to tell him that he's supposed to pay child support. Court's not supposed to tell you that. And here is supposed to tell you that. Do you understand? So the support should be forthcoming. You don't have to pay anything for rent. Because she wanted to live alone, she filed for a protective order against you. And if that's the case, then she pays the rent. Got it?
Okay.
And if you don't want to pay the rent, go home to your mother. Or get a job and start supporting yourself.
I will.
Good. Perfect. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Spandy versus Greta, step forward, please.
Computer operator Tim Spandy is suing his daughter's former friend, 18-year-old event coordinator Tom Grether, for wrecking his wife's car. Tom says he was driving because Tim's daughter was drunk.
Mr. Spandy, this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
Your daughter was driving your car?
No, she wasn't.
Whose car was she using?
It was my wife's car.
So your daughter was driving your wife's car with your permission. She goes to a party or some sort of gathering, and this young man was there. She got too drunk to drive home. She asked him to drive home. He was also drunk.
That's
he
correct.
totaled the car. You want him to pay for the car.
Yes, that's correct, ma'am.
And Mr. Grether says, well, he has certain responsibility. He doesn't have total responsibility. Your daughter has partial responsibility. Okay. When was this party?
February 13th.
At a house?
Yeah.
Did you know Mr. Grether before the party?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How much did you drink?
I think I had like 4 cups of beer.
Why did you drink if you were driving?
I was planning on staying over.
So why didn't you stay over?
Because there's some drama about missing pieces, and then all of
Missing pieces? What?
Bongs.
What is that?
Stuff you smoke marijuana out of.
There was drama about some drugs.
Yeah.
What kind of drama was there about drugs?
One kid accused one of Tom's friends of stealing piece.
So there was some drama, so you wanted to go home?
Well, because all of Tom's friends were leaving, and Tom invited us to the party. We didn't know the people whose house it was at, so we all decided to leave and go back to Tom's.
And you were too drunk to drive?
Yeah.
So you really didn't have good judgment?
Yeah.
What about Tom?
Well, my friends said they gave him a drunk test and see if he could walk a line and if he had slurred speech, and he said he stopped drinking 2 hours before that.
So you had your friends, your drunken friends, give him an alcohol sobriety test. Is that what you're telling me, Miss Spandy?
Yes.
And your slightly inebriated friends told you that he was sufficiently sober to drive your mother's car?
Yeah.
Tell me how you totaled her mother's car.
We were driving down a dirt and gravel road, and the car had spun out, and we had crashed into a tree.
All right, now we'll hear you.
Yeah. Before we started driving, he decided to whip a donut in a cul-de-sac, which was a dirt road. And I'm like, Tom, you need to stop. And he was like, okay, I used to drive a Ford Contour, I have total control. And so then he stops, and then he was like, hey, look at this. And I saw his hand reaching for the emergency brake, but I don't really know if he pulled it or whatever. It just happened too fast. We lost control, and then we ran into a tree.
I was only kidding. I actually never got grasp of the emergency brake. 3 other vehicles ahead of me had spun out at the exact same spot that I had spoke with afterwards. They were all driving
What I don't
SUVs.
understand, Mr. Spandy, is why you think your daughter is not at least partially responsible for what happened that night.
Well, for one thing, the defendant here, he was driving with a suspended license. He knew he was not supposed to be behind the driver's wheel at all.
He was Your Honor. Put your hand down. They were all drinking and doing marijuana.
I understand that.
Mr. Spandy, your daughter took her mother's car and acted irresponsibly with it. She drank. She was probably smoking marijuana. She gave the car to somebody who was given a field sobriety test by a bunch of other teenage alcoholics. And you think she bears no responsibility?
Well, he should have known right from wrong. I mean...
He was wrong. There's no question he was wrong. You don't take your mother's car and then drink.
I agree.
And you don't take your mother's car and then drink and do bongs or whatever they are. What you do is, if you think that you're going to drink, you say, Dad, would you drive me to the party and pick me up? Or if you don't intend to drink and then you go to the party and you drink, you say, give me the phone, I'm going to call my father to come pick me up. She could have done that too, right?
Yes, and that's what she's been instructed to do.
But you mean before this incident, you told her, if you drink, call us, we'll come pick you up, right? So she did the wrong thing.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking you, Mr. Spandy. I'm not saying that Mr. Grether here is going to get off scot-free. But what I'm telling you is your daughter bears some responsibility for what happened that night.
I agree. I mean, she was in the wrong, but for somebody of his age, a little bit older, selling alcohol and all that other stuff going on.
How old is your daughter?
17.
And how old are you?
I'll be 19 in a few weeks.
Listen, she's 17, he's 18. You know how much longer it takes a boy to mature than it takes a girl to mature?
Yes.
I just want you to take a look at him. Take a look at him. You'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yes, I understand completely.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
All right. So don't tell me that he's so much older and is selling liquor. She's 17 years old. She shouldn't be drinking 5 beers, right?
I understand that.
Bad judgment.
Yes, very.
And if you start...
May I please add on the...
Don't say anything.
Sorry.
All right. Start with this premise, Mr. Spandy. But for the fact that your daughter did the wrong thing, you would not be standing here today.
Correct.
She did the wrong thing 3 times. She took the car. She drank.
Yes.
Instead of calling you to come pick her up, she gave the car keys to him. But for her actions, he, who's not any older than she is, would not have control of the car. He didn't steal the car keys. He didn't grab them out of her pocket. She was drunk. He was drunk. They're just lucky they're not dead.
Yes.
So the car was totaled.
Yes.
Did you have insurance?
I only had liability, no collision, so the insurance company would not pay for it.
When did you purchase the car?
I purchased it 8/25/04.
And how much did you pay for it?
We paid a little over $4,300. Other charges incurred that night was towing fee and pound lot, and that was over $200.
So you paid $43 plus another $2.
Yes.
Half $4,500 is $2,250. $2,250 is his responsibility. The other $2,250 is your daughter's responsibility. I suggest that you see to it that she takes care of it.
Oh, she's already taken care of the other car we have purchased.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
Parties are excused and they step out.
I take some of the responsibility. I mean, I made a wrong decision. I should not have been driving.
I fully agree with her that they both were at fault.
I'm happy with it. At least I guess we got some money out of it to help pay.
She chose to drive to a party knowing that there was liquor.
Everything happened just so quickly.
The police were involved.
I was just hysterical. I couldn't control myself.
I made a phone call to her father, apologized for what had happened, and offered to make up some type of payment plan. He refused the payment plan and told me that he wanted it all in one sum.
You know, making up payment plans would not go over well because you skip a payment here, skip a payment there, so I just thought one lump sum would be better.
I'm just glad that things turned out this way and that Judge Judy saw my...
John White says co-worker Toriano Harris owes for injuring his eye. John says Toriano ripped his cornea when he tackled him at a party.
According to your complaint, sir, you were at a New Year's Eve party. Yes. Mr. Harris was at the same New Year's Eve party, and you claimed that he was pretty drunk, and while not intentionally, while horsing around, he seriously injured your eye.
True.
Mr. Harris says everybody was sort of fooling around and butting each other. He didn't injure you. You were just fine. And he questions whether or not he exacerbated this pre-existing eye injury that you had.
Right.
What time did you get to the party?
Probably around 12:30.
Who did you go with?
Kathy.
Where had you been before?
At another party.
Who was driving?
I was.
Were you drinking?
Yeah.
How come you were drinking and driving?
And got caught up in the celebrations.
Was she drinking?
No.
Why didn't you let her drive?
Wasn't thinking at the time.
How much had you been drinking?
A couple cups of champagne, maybe.
Whose party was this that you arrived at 12:30?
Another co-worker's, another friend.
What time did you arrive at the party?
It was a little before 12, about 11:30.
Where had you been previous to 11:30?
I live across the street, so I walked across the street to the party.
So you hadn't had any alcohol before 11:30?
Nope. Ma'am.
And what were you drinking between 11:30 and 12:30?
Had about 2 beers.
Who did you come to the party with?
By myself.
Were you by yourself the beginning part of the evening?
Yes, I was.
That sounds pretty lonely on a New Year's Eve, Mr. Harris.
Well, I had just got off work, and then I went home and found out it was a party across the street, and it was somebody who I work with. So I was invited, so I walked across the street.
Okay, so now that we've laid the foundation of this evening, you were there by yourself, you had a date, you arrived at 12:30, you arrived at 11:30, you were sober as a judge.
Yes, ma'am.
Before 11:30, after that you had a couple of beers.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what happened at 12:30 when you arrived, Mr. White.
I came in the house, I mingled a little bit, had some more drinks. Probably 45 minutes to an hour after that time of mingling. Mr. Harris here was just a little bit out of control. He was obviously way drunker than he said he was. He was so out of control that me and some of the other guests removed ourselves from the living room of the party to like the front porch, patio type area, holding the door, keeping him from coming in. He eventually got up there on the patio where he continued his behaviors.
Describe his behavior to me, please.
Out of control is the only word I can use. He jumping around, spitting liquor at us, loud, screaming. Got down into like a football stance and just rushed me.
Describe that to me. Show me. What's a football stance?
Out here?
Yeah.
A football stance.
Okay, that kind of, okay. All right.
Brushed my legs, grabbed me by the legs, and I don't know if he was trying to put me in a wrestling move or just whatever, but as I was going down, his head hit my eye, causing the stitches that I had from a previous surgery to bust. And
What kind of surgery had you had on your eye?
I had a cornea transplant.
When?
September 20th.
You have the medical records for me?
Yes.
I'd like to see them, please. That's the injury that you're talking about, being bumped in the head by him and the stitches coming apart. Did you go to the emergency room that day?
Yes, I did.
Who took you?
My friend here, Kathy. I actually went home to...
Kathy, you have a last name.
Smith.
You took him to the emergency room?
Yes.
Immediately after being bumped in the head, did you leave the party?
Well, after I got hit in the eye, like I say, he took me to the ground. I think that was the initial impact. And once I was on the ground, he went for probably a headlock and came across my eye again, taking me back to the ground as I was getting up. And at that point, it was when I crawled to the bathroom, tried to wipe the little blood that I did have, and then I left the party.
How many surgeries did you have subsequent to this incident?
3.
Were you scheduled to have any other surgeries after?
No.
The initial corneal transplant?
Right. I was doing...
You were doing
fine. It was in the period of my recovery process.
Okay, Mr. Harris. I'm going to hear you, sir.
We was at the party. We had a couple drinks. I had a couple drinks. I knew he was already there, and he was already drinking, because I can already tell the way he was talking.
You arrived first.
No, he arrived first.
No, you arrived first. You said you arrived at 11:30. They didn't arrive until 12:30.
No, he was there first before me.
Okay, keep going.
I already knew that he had been drinking because the way the slur of his speech he was talking. As the strike clock to 12, we all just was having fun. It was party, horse playing, high five. We bumped chests. Then all of a sudden, a buddy of mine had picked me up. I'm looking around like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So then all of a sudden, he grabbed me. So when he grabbed me, I broke him off of me. And then he fell to the ground, I guess injuring his eye then. He was the aggressor. I wasn't the aggressor. He put his hands on me first.
Did you see what happened?
No, he did. I was in the other room. I'm the one that just witnessed.
Tell me your name, sir.
My name is Brian Dukes.
Do you know both of these gentlemen?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you known them?
About 3 years.
Both?
Yes.
Both nice people?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What time did you arrive at the party that night?
It was after midnight.
Were you out on the porch when this incident
Yes,
occurred?
ma'am.
Tell me what you saw, please.
I'm pretty much a witness to his pretty much out of control behaviors, Mr. Harris. He pretty, like Mr. White here said, he did get down, crouch down in the football stands, and did attack Mr. White here.
Just describe to me what you saw. He got down in a football stance.
Football stands. Then he just rushed him, just grabbed his legs and took him down to the ground.
Did you assist him in cleaning up his eye?
No, ma'am.
You were just a guest at the party?
Yes.
Did you come with an escort?
No, ma'am.
Were you the only one with a date that night?
No. No.
Okay. I read your complaint that you had a video.
Yes.
Somebody was taking pictures of that
The
evening.
homeowner of the party actually was recording the whole incident.
I'd like to see it, please. Mr. Dukes, you can have a seat, sir.
Thank you.
This is the point here. This was like I say, well past 12:30. He's actually finna start spitting liquor at us. You can't hear it, but he's screaming, yelling, profanity, whatnot. This in the background. This the patio. Now this the patio area here where we at. That's the homeowner's friend, telling him that he needs to go, but he's not hearing anything. That's the charge. Right there, you can see me holding my eye as I'm going back. He jumps on me again. I'm trying to get up now. I brought back down. At this point here, this is where I told him, I didn't use these words, but you just messed my eye up. And he was like, all right, get up, I got you. I'm crawling off into the bathroom now. As he comes back out, he attempts to do this again, but he will stop. This was a separate person here, separate incident. And so that's the homeowner there. At this point, she was just really fed up with him. That's him hitting the door, banging on her front door, glass door.
What you're supposed to say, Mr. Harris, is, I drank too much, I was an idiot. I'm sorry I hurt you, and I'm going to pay your bills. You're not supposed to make excuses, sir. Have you seen this video before?
No.
You've never seen it before?
Never seen it
Why
before.
didn't you show him this video before? Maybe he would understand the nature of his actions.
In this process, I've reached out to him twice, not asking him to pay the bills, just to help him. Like I said, we have been friends for some time. I knew that he didn't just have this money in his pocket. But if he would just assisted, no, I don't. But if he had just assisted with the help, we probably wouldn't be here.
I'm waiting.
If he knew that his eye was messed up, why would he come to a party and have fun anyway? I mean, but you know, sometimes when you're at a party, everybody get, you know, everybody horseplay. At least they do where I'm from.
You want to take this one, or what do you want me to do?
I don't know. There are good questions and there are bad questions. That's a bad question.
You know that if you have some delicate surgery, the chances of that surgery becoming infected, inflamed, that can become dislodged, that happens. Is what you're suggesting, sir, that if you have this kind of surgery, you stay in your room? You work at a place where I assume sometimes it gets physical.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's his job. So he has to go to work. And you take care as best as you can to make sure that the people that you're working with don't hurt you, don't exacerbate a condition that already exists. When you go to a New Year's Eve party, you expect to have a little bit of alcohol, sometimes, and sometimes you even expect people to act stupid. You don't expect them to act very stupid. And when you act very stupid, Mr. Harris, and you hurt somebody, you have to be responsible and pay for it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you this question, sir. You live across the street from this party.
Yes, ma'am.
You were pretty drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me give you this scenario. You're walking back to your house and you're pretty drunk and you're not looking where you were going. And a car is coming down the street. They're perfectly fine. Nobody's drinking in that car. They're driving. But you dart out into the middle of the street and that car swerves to avoid you. And the people in that car are seriously injured because they hit a tree. Are you going to tell me that you think on New Year's Eve people shouldn't drive their cars because drunks sometimes walk in the middle of the road? That's the same kind of philosophy that you're trying to sell me when you say, listen, when you go to a New Year's Eve party, everybody gets drunk and they horse around. You can horse around without being an idiot. Would you like to show your boss that video?
I don't want to show nobody the video.
Well, you should have thought of that before you came here, Mr. Harris. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
R-A-U-J-O.
Mr. Arajo.
There you go.
Close enough. Are you the owner of A-Plus Limousine?
I'm part owner, ma'am.
How long have you been in business?
5 years.
How many limousines do you have?
3.
Do you drive as well?
Yes.
In the 5 years that you've had your business, sir, how many times have you sued clients?
This is the first time.
Mr. Rory leased one of your cars for an evening. He wanted to celebrate his
birthday.
A national holiday. What national holiday was it, Mr. Rory?
It was my 35th.
You look older. And who are you celebrating with, sir?
Friends, family.
How many friends and how many family?
About 40 or so.
And how many people did you put in this limousine?
About 20 at a time.
What do you mean 20 at a time?
They picked up from one location, dropped us off, went back, picked up another group.
Were you driving that night?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
Tell me what kind of damage you allege that they caused your vehicle.
They used this fun streamer can, and it was all over the car. Normally, it's not a problem to get off the carpets, the door paneling, and that such things, but on vinyl, it adheres to it and it crusts up and it doesn't come off.
Well, what do you mean normally it's not a problem? I don't understand that, sir.
Off of carpeting and door panels, you just peel it right off. It comes right off like hair. But on the vinyl itself, it actually sticks to it and it crusts up and it doesn't come off. and we needed to get it detailed, and it took about 5 hours of cleaning to finally get most of it off, but it still left stains. I have some pictures to show if you...
Now, you were driving that night.
Yes, I was.
By the way, I read your answer. You don't deny that you bought this stuff and you used it in the car.
Yes.
Could you explain to me, just for my own edification, why would a 35-year-old man do that?
It's fun, and if you had silly string shot at you, it's kind of exciting, I guess, so it made it fun.
I have a couple of my sons visiting me today, you know, and they're about your age. One of them's a couple of years older, but we won't go there. And I cannot imagine them renting a limousine with their friends and using silly string. Mr. Rory. I mean, I can imagine them going from one place to another, I can imagine them having some beers in the back of a car, but I can't imagine them using silly string, this stuff. I mean, my grandchildren use that.
We like to have fun.
If you consider that fun. So where were you shooting it?
Oh, at each other, you know, typically.
Were you making a big mess?
There was a mess when it was over, yes.
Well, who was supposed to clean up that mess?
Well, Gennaro?
Mr. Rory, no, I'm being serious with you, sir. You commissioned A1 Limousine to take you and friends from one place to another. Where did it say that they provided domestic services for you to clean up after your crap?
Well, we've rented limos many times.
Show me.
We've never cleaned up after ourselves in any cars we've ever rented. That's why we pay $800 to rent a car.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
Normally, we clean up beer bottles, bottle caps, empty cans, napkins. That kind of stuff is not a problem. We never have the client clean up after himself. That's normal.
Well, that's nice of you, because they're drinking a beer, they leave it in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that your limousine has places for drinks.
Yes.
Because that's what people do in limousines.
Yes.
You know, they have a drink. That's why they hire a limousine sometimes, so that they can get from one place to another drunk. And they're not driving. Well, that's what people do. They want to act like idiots, so they hire somebody else to drive so that they can be safe. That's reasonable. What I don't understand, Mr. Rory, is this stuff and being a real pig and expecting somebody else to clean up after you.
Well, we've rented limos in the past. We've used it in the past. We've never had anybody charge us any cleaning fee, certainly not the amount he's trying to charge, $350 for somebody to clean it. I had asked for pictures of, you know, the stuff that he couldn't get cleaned off several times.
Do you have those?
I actually took pictures before the cleanup.
Well, let me see what it looks like.
These are some pictures before. After that, I did inform Mr. Rory that he was more than welcome to come by before Thursday. This happened on Saturday night, and Thursday we had another service booked already. So I emailed him and told him that he was more than welcome to come by and look at it for himself before it was cleaned, but I really didn't have the time to be running back and forth taking pictures for his benefit.
Is that right, Mr. Rory?
I emailed him requesting pictures after he sent me those pictures of the stuff that didn't get cleaned up. I asked to come see the limo as well.
Do you have a bill for the detailing service?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Who detailed for you?
It's a car wash in San Diego.
Is this a Hummer?
It's a Hummer limousine, yes, ma'am.
H2 limousine.
Yes.
Interior detailed, foreign compound removal, $345.
On Wednesday the 9th, he said that I could come over by Thursday to come take a look at the car.
Yes.
He emailed me again on Wednesday night saying that he'd got the car cleaned, and he booked it again, so I couldn't come see it because it was already clean. So, to me...
I have to take his word for it that it was a mess.
Oh, I'm sure it was a mess, but it was something that just back and dried up. We had the stuff all over our car, inside our house. I mean, it's like paper. It doesn't stain.
Your Honor, the can does say, do not spray on vinyl as it will leave a stain on certain types of vinyl.
My question to you, sir, is you saw them using this.
No, I did not, ma'am.
You didn't?
No, there's a partition between the driver and the cab in the back. And normally what will happen is when I pick someone up and I...
No, don't tell me what normally. So you're telling me you didn't see this disaster until they left the cab?
Until they were exiting the vehicle.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What did you find when you took apart the radio?
There was silly string
mounted onto the laser.
Well, that's a mystery. I mean,
You think that I'm smart enough to unravel this mystery?
And later today,
So not only did you sell the car to a minor, you sold it and took advantage of him.
Well, I made a lot of repairs and
I don't care whether you made a lot of repairs or whether you outfitted the car for the Queen of England.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Limo company owner Genaro Araujo says former client Darren Rury ruined the interior of his limo with silly string.
Who was this?
That is the person that installed the new stereo, because also, I'm not sure how, but silly string got inside the stereo. We believe it was either on a CD that they loaded and it damaged the stereo also, so that's part of what we're suing for also. We had to replace it. He's the gentleman, works for Big Boy Car Audio in San Diego. He's the one that installed this new stereo.
Tell me your name, sir.
David Martinez.
Mr. Martinez, are you related to the plaintiff in any way?
No, I am not.
Have you had business dealings with him before?
Yes, I have.
How many times have you done jobs for the plaintiff?
Just 2 times.
Okay, and the second time had to do with this audio system?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about what you found.
I pulled the deck out, which is the radio. It was...
Why did you bring the car and to check out the radio?
Because the radio part works on it, the AM/FM radio part, but when you try and load a CD, it spits it back out.
Okay, so it wasn't working.
It wasn't working properly, no.
Had it been working prior to Mr. Rury and company occupying the Hummer?
Yes, actually, when they got on, his girlfriend Bambi brought along some CDs, and I showed her how to use it.
Is that right, Bambi?
Yes.
And it worked fine?
It worked fine.
Is that your real name?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, and at the end of the night, when I picked up the final group that was going to be leaving, Bambi and Darren were in the group, and I was holding their CDs for them so they wouldn't get lost. So she asked for them back. When I gave it to her, she went in the back and she told me there was a problem. And I thought she just didn't know how to use it, so I went back to show her again, and that's when I noticed you put it in, it spit it back out, put it in, throw it back out, and it wouldn't play properly.
Got it. Is that right, Bambi?
That's right.
Good. So far, she's a wonderful witness for you. What did you find when you took apart the radio?
There was silly string mounted onto the laser, so it wasn't reading.
Darren, how do you think that happened?
Well, that's a mystery. I mean...
Just a second. That's a mystery. You think that I'm smart enough to unravel this mystery?
You probably are, but the CD player was working fine when we got out of the car, we went into a club, we gave him the CDs so nobody would use it or anything.
Listen to me. Bambi said it wasn't working.
It was working
prior
to it.
Prior.
And then we got out of the club, we get the CDs back, and they don't
Listen to me, Darren.
Sure.
I want you to try to put on your thinking cap, Darren. You and Bambi got into the car as she put in the CDs, and they worked just fine. At the end of the evening, this is the fact, the CD wasn't working. Right, Bambi?
When we got back into the car.
It wasn't working.
We went to put a CD back in there.
At the end of the evening, it wasn't working.
Right.
Mr.
Martinez
says that what he found in the CD changer was...
silly string.
Silly string. Figure that out, Darren.
We didn't have silly string on our CDs.
No, but
me,
maybe somebody...
it's convenient excuse, but I don't think so.
Listen to me. Everybody was drinking. Looks to me as if a lot of people were drinking. Maybe somebody thought it'd be funny to put silly string in the stereo system. You have something you want me to look at, Darren? You got a lot of...
No, I have a lot of photographs of our mess, but...
of your what?
Of our mess in the car that he had sent us, but...
Oh,
but he never showed me any of the silly string that was inside the stereo. So no.
I have to believe Mr. Martinez. Yeah. Darren, I want you to look at Mr. Martinez. You think Mr. Martinez is lying about what he found in the stereo?
I don't know.
Darren.
Probably.
Darren, and you were 3 sheets to the wind, and probably so was Miss Bambi. How much did you charge him for fixing the stereo?
I charged him $45 to remove the stereo and install another one because it couldn't be repaired. We had to replace the laser, and it's going to cost more than what the stereo costed.
So how much was it?
We actually tried to get the same stereo over the internet, but it's a discontinued model, so we ended up buying a different one that cost $168.95 plus the installation fee.
Well, that's all together, that's $603. That's with the detailing and his bill and the bill for the new stereo. So explain to me, sir, why you're suing for $1,158.
Because even after it was cleaned off, it did leave a stain like the can says it would. I have some pictures of that, if you'd like to see them. And
I didn't think you had pictures of that, the stain.
I did.
Oh, let me see.
Actually, there's a few pictures. Some of these might be repeats, but it didn't come off completely. It left residue. And the only way to fix that is to have it upholstered again, and I have a estimate for that also.
Oh, that's a mess that you made, sir. Did you take a look?
No, he wouldn't give me those pictures.
Well, I'm going to give you the picture, sir. Here you go.
And if you actually total up the... Sorry, ma'am.
If you actually total up, it's more than what you're suing for.
Correct.
You see, Darren, look at me, Darren, you're not a bad guy. You know, sometimes I have bad guys, and sometimes I have just guys that are not bad, but just limited. You're not one of the bad guys.
Limo company owner Genaro Araujo says former client Darren Ruri ruined the interior of his limo with silly string.
I'm giving you as a given that you and your guests caused this damage to the vinyl, that you and your guests caused another CD changer to have to be installed, that you and your guests caused the car to have to be detailed after you finished with your night of partying. I want you to accept that as a given. Whose responsibility do you think it is?
Well, I hate to say it's mine, but if I have to.
See, I knew you weren't a bad guy. Got a nice smile. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can I step out?
He approached me saying that he had my credit card and he was going to charge me $350, so that got my attention.
I was actually amazed at how dirty it actually was. I never expected to see something like that.
People were celebrating and shut off the strings, and then...
And you were working at the same place where Mr. Alvarez was working. What do you do for a living?
I was a server. First, I started as a hostess, and I ended up as a server.
And what about Mr. Alvarez?
He was my manager.
Now, you decided to join an employee program, but not an official program, for savings.
Yeah.
Tell me how it worked.
It's kind of like something to save money. The person in charge gets 10 people together. And Johan right here was the person in charge of it. He got 10 people to participate. Then after you get the 10 people to commit to it, you get numbers, you put them in a cup, everybody gets their number. Each paycheck, you will have to give in $100. The first time you put in the $100, number one gets $1,000. Next paycheck, everybody puts in another $100, number two gets their part of the money. I was number 11. I was the last number in it because I was planning to save my money to purchase a car.
So he was in it too?
Yeah, he was number one.
He was number one?
Yes.
Did we all draw at the same time?
No, he said since he was the person in charge, he will receive his money first, and everybody else got a number. Actually, with me, I requested number 11, so I know that by the end of it, I would have my money and I didn't have to go back and finish paying anybody.
And how much money did you put in?
$1,000.
But you quit your job before you had actually accumulated $1,000.
Yeah, I actually quit when I was, I believe, in number 3. But I also talked to him and I told him I will be responsible enough to bring the $1,000 every date that it was supposed to be.
You mean $100?
Yeah, the $100.
And did you do that?
Yes, every time.
Who did you give the money to when you came back each week?
Okay, the next two numbers, he was there when I went to go drop off the money.
Yes.
So I gave him to him personally, and I asked him, since I don't work here anymore, for my safety, in case any problems happen, I would like you to sign my paper every time I give you the money.
And did he do that?
Yeah, he signed 1 through 5 all the times that I showed up that he was there. But after the 5th time, I believe he started getting weekends off, which was the days we were supposed to turn in the money. We got paid on Friday, so you would have 2 days after that to turn in your money, which was Saturday or Sunday. And then after that, I would go to the restaurant and just give it to the person personally because we had a list.
and I knew exactly who was next and who was supposed to get the money, so I would go and give it personally to the person. But when it was my turn to give the money to, I talked to Johan and told him, when can I go pick up my money? And I never got my money, so I went on.
Well, what did Mr. Alvarez say when you said, I want my money now?
Oh, well, actually, this was his excuse. He told me, Soma, you know what, I'm having problems with the money. So I told him, I understand problems happen, and he actually gave me his word that 100% that he was going to have it for the 29th.
Which 29th of what month?
April. Actually, I showed up on the 31st, 2 days after. And I asked him if he had my money. But he had called me already, which I didn't check my voicemails, telling me he had a problem. So I was like, oh, man, we just...
Well, what did he tell you the problem was this time?
He claimed that he got pulled over by the cops and that he didn't know he had a restriction order, like, for his arrest, because something had happened with his license or something, and that they took him into jail and he had to pay a bail out of $1,000, which he had to use my money to get out. So I said, that's not my problem. I need...
How are you, ma'am? How you doing?
Don't ask me how I'm doing.
Okay. To begin with, when we joined this saving, everybody was aware of it that...
Don't tell me what everybody was aware of. Where's her money?
I told them...
Where's her money?
The money, I do not owe her anything, okay? I told her, and to begin with, to everybody, whoever's going to quit the job is not going to receive the money. I'm not going to be responsible.
Just a second. Okay.
Okay?
So, shh, please, don't speak. Now it's Mr. Alvarez's turn. So let me, take your hands off your hips.
Okay.
So let me understand. You say that you explained to everybody
Exactly.
that you say that you explained to everybody that if they quit the company, they lost their money. Is that what you say?
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Sandoval was told that if she left the company, she would lose her money.
Right. I would.
That's what you...
Right.
Is that
That's
what you just told me?
Yes.
When did you leave the company?
I think I don't have the exact date, but I believe it was after the third number. Actually, it was a day after New Year's. I remember.
So the beginning of January 2005. Yeah. When had you started to put in your money?
I started 11/26/04.
Do you get paid every week or every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. So what we're talking about is the entire month of December, which is when you would have put in your money.
Yes.
Minimally 2, maybe 3
Yeah, around there.
times you contributed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct so far, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now let me see where you say he signed off on the money. Well, Mr. Alvarez, you gave her what amounts to a receipt for 5 payments.
Yeah, exactly. I told her.
Shut.
Okay.
Mr. Alvarez, let's recap what you just told me, sir. You told me that you explained to Miss Sandoval that if she left the company, she would lose her money.
Right.
She left the company after putting in 3 payments.
Yes, we had a
I'm
talk.
speaking.
Okay.
But then you accepted 2 more payments from her after she left the company, sir.
Yeah, because we had a talk.
No, we didn't.
Just a second. Well, now he's changing it, you see. Now he's changing it.
I'm not changing it. I did not finish. You didn't let me finish what I...
You finished enough, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
They were peeing on her mattress.
We do not know that for sure.
Listen to me, sir. You know why I know that for sure? Because I don't think she peed on her own mattress.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Salma Sandoval says former co-worker Johan Alvarez scammed her out of $1,000.
Mr. Alvarez, are you trying to tell me that you never said to Miss Sandoval, because it's very easy for me to figure out, and it's very easy for me to find out by picking up the phone and calling the police, that you never said to her, I got pulled over by the police.
Sure.
And I needed $1,000 in bail.
Yes, I did.
Now, why in the world, Mr. Alvarez, would you tell her that you needed $1,000 bail if you didn't have her $1,000?
I had the money with me, okay?
No. Shut up. No. Now we're getting somewhere, madam. Go ahead. You had the money with you.
I had the money, and I told her when I did call her, I said, I'm going to set up a day with you so I can give you the money because I don't want nobody to come to my job.
Just a minute. So now you acknowledge that she put in $1,000 to the savings plan.
No, I not acknowledge it. She was giving the money to somebody else.
I don't care who she was giving it to, sir.
Well, she wasn't giving it to me.
I don't care if she was giving it to you or not. The money was turned over to numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It was now her time. She has turned in the money so that everybody got paid in full $1,000. Now you've got the $1,000 and you get pulled over by the police.
I did not have the $1,000 with me. I told her that I was going to be responsible to give the money so she could get over with it. Because she was calling me on the phone and harassing me. She went to my job. She bring the boyfriend out there that she has. She bring him to
Did
try to
you
fight.
use $1,000 for bail?
No. Not her money. It was my money.
Just a second.
It was my money.
No, it wasn't.
It was
you got your money already.
No, it was my money. Okay, so...
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes, ma'am.
She's telling me the truth. That you told her, I had your money, but I got into trouble and I needed to use the $1,000 for bail. She didn't make that up, sir.
Your Honor, I did have money on me. Okay, I did not have to use her money. The only thing was she was coming to me. She was harassing me on my job. She went to tell everybody on my job that I was a thief and I was stealing money.
You are. You took her money. You are. You took her money.
Ma'am, and then she went. She didn't stop that. She went to the president of the company to tell him.
Good for you. Good for you.
Exactly.
Because he told me that he was going to lend them the money. And then the president of the company called me and said, get it over with. I don't want to hear it.
And I'm telling you the same thing, my dear.
And then
the first person who got paid this $1,000 was who?
It was me.
And the last person that's going to get paid this $1,000 is her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I knew he was going to try to lie. He lied to me more than 5 times.
He went to try to intimidate me, I guess.
I didn't threaten him. What I told him was he needed to cough up money.
I feel like he didn't try to scam me, but he got caught up in a way where...
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Marquez versus Welfare, step forward, please.
23-year-old Joe Marquez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old student Jamie Welfare, for selling his washer and dryer. Jamie claims the appliances were a Mother's Day gift from Joe.
How old are you, Mr. Marquez?
I'm 23. I'll be 24 in a couple days.
Before you moved in with Miss Welfare and her 2 children, where were you living?
I was living with my parents.
And when did you move in with Miss Welfare?
I moved in with her in mid-October of 2003.
And how long did you live there?
I lived there until the beginning of April.
And where were you working during that time?
The whole time I was working at Denny's restaurant.
Part-time?
Part-time, yes. I also coached football at the local elementary school.
What was your financial arrangement when you were living with Miss Welfare?
We paid half. I paid $300, she paid $300.
For rent?
For rent, correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
What about the rest of the expenses?
We usually split those down the middle as well.
And what were you doing, Miss Welfare?
I also had 2 jobs. I was working at 2 separate restaurants.
Okay. This is what the complaint is about. The complaint says that while you were living there, you purchased a washer and dryer. When you moved out in April of 2004, you told Miss Welfare that she could keep them for a while because you had no place to take them because you were moving back with your parents. A year later, you finally get your own place. You let her know you want your washer and dryer back, and she says, forget it.
Actually, I did have a place to put them. I have a receipt for my storage space, which I purchased in April 17th of 04 as well, which was actually 5 days after I moved everything out of the apartment.
All right, so you didn't want to put it in your storage space because...
Well, she has 2 children, and we've been to the laundromat together, and it takes quite a long time to do laundry. And since my parents already had a washer and dryer, I had no need for them at that time. And I had just purchased them in March of that year, which had only been about a month. So I figured I might as well get some use out of them by leaving them at her apartment.
That's somewhat correct, but not completely correct.
23-year-old Joe Marquez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old student Jamie Welfare, for selling his washer and dryer. Jamie claims the appliances were a Mother's Day gift from Joe.
Well, let me hear what your version of the events were.
When he bought those for me, it was an early Mother's Day gift. I was the one doing all the laundry. He never even did his own laundry. I was doing my laundry, his laundry, and both of my children's laundry. And between the 2 jobs and being at the laundromat all the time, it was a lot of time away, and so we had been discussing, him buying a washer and dryer for me, and he was looking online and said, hey, come and pick the one you want. And so I picked the one I want, He gave them to me. When he moved out, I was sleeping when he moved out. You know, our relationship had gotten kind of rocky. There was never any discussion about me giving them back, ever.
When for the first time did you contact her with regard to retrieving these 2 items?
Your Honor, as she said, I moved out at the very beginning of April of 2004. We didn't talk for 2 weeks afterwards. After that, we, began phone conversations, and actually on May 5th of 2004, she came over to my house, my parents' house, for a little Cinco de Mayo get-together. In May of 2004, I gave Miss Welfare $100 because she was having a rough time making it on her own in the apartment, and I have here a check for utilities / other stuff I gave to Miss Welfare for $100 to help her out.
Can you answer my question?
Sure.
You remember what my question was?
Yes, I do. Have we ever talked about it? About the washer and dryer?
When for the first time did you ask for it back?
I first asked for it back when I found out I was moving out with my current girlfriend, which was in March of 2005.
Okay, so between April of 2004 and March 2005, you had absolutely no discussion with her about this washer and dryer.
That is incorrect. When I gave her that check, which was dated May 20th of 04, we had discussed it. She actually wanted to purchase the washer and dryer fully. She wanted to give me payments per month. And I told her that since we were becoming good friends, I did not want the only conversation to be between us about the washer and dryer.
At that time, Mr. Marquez, did you believe that the friendship would rekindle into a relationship?
No. Actually, when we first broke up,
Mr. Marquez, don't insult my intelligence.
Sorry, Your Honor.
You don't go from being lovers to friends without somebody hoping for a little bit more.
That is correct. Yes.
So during that time, and during the time, according to you, she said, why don't you let me make payments on it? You said, no.
Correct.
And now you have a new girlfriend.
Yes, I do.
You moving into an apartment together?
We have currently moved into an apartment as of the 9th of April.
And I assume it doesn't have a washer and dryer.
Actually, it does. After this little skirmish between me and my ex-girlfriend, my current girlfriend went out and purchased one, hoping it would make me feel a little bit better.
Did it?
I was very, very pleased that she would show that much friendship towards me. But I wasn't very angry about the washer and dryer. I was angry at the fact that she took me for granted that I was being nice and letting her borrow the washer and dryer when I could have just put them in my storage.
Get over it. There is something that doesn't ring true, sir, about your story that you told her more than a year ago, that I'm letting you use this piece of equipment that breaks down, that once it's used, it becomes less functional. I'm going to let you use that for as long as it takes. And it just so happens that the time that you want it back is when you're moving in with a new girlfriend. By the way, whose washer and dryer is the new one that was purchased?
It is hers.
I just want her to hear that.
Yes, I've told her that many times.
Very good. And you know whose this is?
Yes.
Hers. Thank you. That's it. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It boils down to he has a new girlfriend now.
I told her, I gave her my word that I'd let her use them until I moved out again.
And he needs somebody else to do his laundry.
I actually know how to do my laundry.
I mean, his mom did it, then I did it, and now she's going to do it.
Actually, she taught me how to do it.
I think she made the right decision.
I have no hard feeling towards her.
And I'm thankful. I'm very thankful.
If you move out of an apartment with a girlfriend, take everything.
The husband decided to put a tape recorder in his wife's room, and this is what he heard. Today's story with a similar plot. Enjoy it. Sometimes it's not the simplicity of the question, but how unexpected the question seems. Doris, my wife of 23 years, just asked me, "Are you going to headquarters this month?" It seems simple enough. A quick calculation says I've been doing this for over 100 months straight. I am the manager of a large grocery store. My store is part of a national chain and one of the most profitable in the region. I attend monthly meetings on the second Thursday of every month. I am on a 7 a.m. flight and return on a 10 p.m. flight. It's a long day, but always full of meetings and presentations. We end the day with a team-building dinner. I get home around 1 a.m. and usually work half a day that Friday. At my job, I hire more teenagers than adults. They are known for asking questions that have little to do with what they actually want to ask. Something like, "Will we have fresh food this Saturday?" is often followed a few minutes later by the question, "Can I take Saturday off?" This seems off topic, but Doris hasn't asked me about going to this meeting in at least 5 years. She knows I'll go. There's no need to ask. Why then did she need confirmation this time? In poker, I think they call it a tell. I made a mental note. Later in the evening, I paid the bills. In fact, I handle almost every aspect of our financial lives. Doris' most recent credit card statement for her individual account showed a couple of purchases at Angie's Elegant Rags fashion boutique. Nothing strange, except that she had previously criticized them for their absurd prices. Years ago, I discovered that when Doris wanted to hide a birthday or Christmas present, she would hide them under extra blankets in the hallway linen closet. The next morning, while Doris was in the shower, I checked her hiding place and found nothing. I guess you can't always be lucky, but it also told me that the purchase wasn't made with me in mind. I combed through her closet, but to no avail. I almost forgot about that purchase until Friday after work. One of my chores was to inflate the tire on Doris' car. When I was looking for the compressor in her trunk, I found 2 bags from Angie's Elegant Rags. One bag contained a box of blue high-heeled shoes, the other a light blue cocktail dress. The soles of the shoes were scratched. They were in use. It doesn't take much imagination to think that once the shoes have been worn, the dress is no longer in perfect condition either. Was there some party I forgot about? It didn't make sense. Why hide the dress? Surprise at a party? For what? Our 46th birthdays were a few months ago, and our wedding anniversary was a month ago. There was no reason for my work to reward me in any way. I couldn't think of a compelling reason to hide the dress and shoes. Perhaps the dress and shoes were not hidden at all. Leaving them in a trunk may have been a mistake. Above all my guesses stood the fact that the shoes were used. I made another mental note. On Saturday afternoon, after I finished mowing the lawn, I ran up the stairs, undressed, and turned on the shower. I had bought shampoo earlier that day. It was in a bag on the stairs. I put the shampoo on the first step so I wouldn't forget it. It worked well. I wrapped a towel around myself and headed back down the stairs. I heard Doris's cell phone ringing. Doris answered her cell phone, so I remained silent. I grabbed the shampoo bag and started up the stairs. "Hey, sis, how are you? We'll talk about this when Buck isn't around. He's upstairs taking a shower. 'Kay, love you too. Bye." Doris's sister Mindy is 2 years younger than Doris, and she and I try to avoid each other. We used to get along, but after her divorce, she thinks all men are scum. I can't wait to spend time with her, and Doris knows it. It's not that she's mean to me, it's just that she has such a negative attitude towards men. Mindy has her own quirk. You never know what color her hair will be from visit to visit. I can't understand some of those bright colors. Maybe you're walking through the mall, and you see someone with an ice cream, and you think, I could probably look like that. I thought about this conversation while taking a shower. I never thought about spying on Doris. With 2 recent strange events and the tone of what I just heard, the scales tipped towards espionage. This is not the time to put off calling. I'm gonna run out of business. Do you need anything? I can't think of anything. My first stop was the library. I used their computers to search the internet for a voice-activated recorder. I found the right one and then found a store that sold it. After shopping, I stopped at my grocery store and bought some fruit and snacks. It's better to come back with something if I'm running errands. Doris spends a lot of time in the kitchen. Her computer workstation is in the corner at the kitchen table. She can turn her chair and look at the TV on the wall in the living room. I attached the recording device to the side of the fan. The fan needed cleaning, so this became my cover. My name is Buck. Counting the time we dated, Doris and I have been together for 25 years. We both started out as fitness enthusiasts, but that ended a long time ago. I could do with losing 50 pounds, and Doris, although still slim, could easily lose 30. I'm not a vain person, so my excess weight doesn't bother me at all. Doris complains about being overweight and starts a diet, but after a few weeks, the diet becomes history. I'm busy with housework and my motorcycle. We spend many weekends with our neighbors. Doris reads books and watches a lot of reality TV. I could never get into those TV shows. Doris works as a receptionist at a hospital. Our only child, Jason, married Kelly a year ago, and we are proud grandparents to Jared, who is 6 weeks old. When Kelly returns to work in a few weeks, Doris plans to start daycare to save them on childcare costs. Doris plans to reduce her hours at the hospital. She keeps the money she earns for her personal fund. When we first got married, Doris and I were like stereotypical newlyweds. We had a night in the morning or evening or both. This went on for several months until Doris discovered that she was pregnant. Perhaps typically, the intim began to wane and never returned after a few months. For the next 20 years, we had an intimate a couple of times a week. Over the past few years, the frequency has decreased to once a week. I tried to broach the subject. Doris, don't you think we should see a marriage counselor or something like that to see if they can help bring energy back into our love life? I think you're overestimating. Don't you still get it at least once a week? Yeah, but it seems pretty mechanical right now. I'm just trying to find a way to make it romantic again. We don't need some psychiatrist smirking at us. We're fine the way we are. I'm going shopping, that's all. As we stand, it's hard to imagine that all married couples go through this. We used to go to flea markets or the zoo, but now she sits and watches her recorded TV shows. I ride a motorcycle to pass the time. Doris used to go with me, but that was also several years ago. We lived together and that's it. I thought that when Jared showed up, things might change. It must have changed since Doris spends a lot of time at Jason's. About a year ago, after at least a couple of years of being together, I visited a divorce lawyer. She stated the facts. I had to pay Doris a significant allowance. Although I asked the lawyer to draw up the paperwork, I ultimately decided that perhaps I was overestimating the situation. I really didn't want to hurt Doris. I just wanted my life back, living with someone who enjoyed their time with me. I put the divorce papers on my desk. I haven't brought this up with Doris, but living with someone who acts like she'd rather be somewhere else is getting hard to bear. I think it started when Jason left for college. She seemed lost in the empty house. I don't think she cheated on me, but I trusted her completely at the time so I could easily ignore the red flags if they were flying. Obviously, these recent events have caused me to question my unconditional trust. What kept bothering me was that I had so many opportunities to change, and I remained completely faithful. The store has many regular customers, and many of them are single, widows, and divorcees. I was winked at, groped, and even propositioned, but I survived it all. I just assumed that Doris saw in me what I saw in her and would never leave. Reality is offensive. I found this great little voice-to-text tool. I insert the memory card from the recorder into my laptop and launch this tool. It downloads everything and creates a text file. I can then quickly review the results and see if there is anything alarming. The only downside to where I place the recorder is that I need a stool to reach it. I have to wait until Doris goes to bed before reviewing the day's notes. Many words were translated incorrectly, but I could understand the general meaning of the conversations. My concerns grew when Doris spoke with Mindy again on Tuesday. "Hey, sister. How are you?" "Okay, no, not yet. Probably within the next hour and a half." No, I think so. So boring here. I don't care about him anymore. Maybe next week. Bach has a month-long trip to head office. He'll be out Thursday night. Yes, I work with him. Katie was with him. She says he's normal, you know. There. Probably just this one time, just to spice up my life. Why do you care? You don't even get along. He'll never know. He might even like it if I learn a few tricks. You have your own opinion. Mindy seems different. I hear the garage opening. I need to go. Love you too, sister. Bye. My gut's twisted. I didn't know anything, but the hint tore me apart. I searched the internet for a private detective. I drank about 6 ounces of whiskey and fell asleep on the couch. Good morning, dear. Why were you sleeping on the couch? My stomach was bothering me. Damn, look at the time. I have to hurry. I have an early meeting. I had plenty of time and didn't have a meeting, but I couldn't even look her in the eye. After several calls in the morning, I spent the afternoon meeting with a divorce lawyer. I reviewed our family financial situation with her. She suggested that I quit or take a sabbatical. Everything else would be divided in half. I'll use the trip to headquarters to quit. My lawyer also gave me some good advice about banking and investing. I spent the afternoon doing some of these things. I checked at Angie's and they don't sell used shoes. Any love I had left was leaking out like air from a nailed tire. Doris, look at these printouts. These are charges on our joint credit card. I have been informed that our account has been compromised and will be canceled. New cards will be mailed. We need to figure out which of these charges are not ours. From now on, use your own credit card. Are we going to have to pay for purchases we didn't make? No, that's one of the good things about credit cards. If it's not your purchase, you don't pay. Of course, since I made up this nonsense about the call from the credit card company, all the payments were ours. I cut our common cards. Doris, I read online that sometimes when they have your credit card, they can also access your bank account. What do you think about transferring all but $100 into a savings account? These accounts are not connected since they are in different banks. Do you think so? You know I don't spend much time on our finances. Do what you need to do. Our savings account does not have an ATM link. I made the changes electronically and then waited until Doris went to bed. Over the next few days, nothing noteworthy was found on the recorder. There was someone else in the kitchen on Monday night. I found the appropriate place in the recording and listened. It was Mindy and Doris. This is unexpected. Did you have business on this side of town? Dentist appointment. Thought I'd pop in and try to revive you one last time. Sorry, sister. I'm fed up with this life. It's time for a change. I had lunch with him today. Damn, you're an idiot. What if Buck finds out and files for divorce? This will be a one-time thing. Dinner, dancing, and who knows what else. I'm looking forward to having lunch with him afterwards. Don't do this. I've been on the other side of this crap. Don't do this. I have to go. Traffic through town could be a problem. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay, be careful. I think that's it. I sent an email confirming a meeting with a private investigator and another letter to my lawyer to update the claim. At lunchtime on Tuesday, I assigned a private investigator to keep an eye on Doris throughout Thursday. Once he is sure that she is heading to her lover's house or hotel, she will need to be served with a summons. After work, I stopped and looked at a few places for long-term stays. Doris was annoyed when I came home 2 hours late. Isn't your phone working? Your dinner is cold. Heat it up yourself. She disappeared into the bedroom. I left the food on the stove. I had bought some fast food earlier. I have made a list of people to call, things to say, and various minor things to do in a divorce. On Tuesday, the recorder again showed one side of the conversation. Hi, sister. What's new? You sound like a stuck record. It'll be a one-time thing. That's what I told him. Well, maybe you're right and I'll like it and change my mind. I guess that's the risk I'm taking. Who would want him if he leaves me? He's become so boring, so good luck to him if that happens. He's a real jerk lately. Yeah, that's right. I guess I don't notice anything from all these love-hungry women. Maybe I really am. We'll talk later. I don't think they ended their calls with love you anymore. Looks like things are getting pretty tense. My opinion of Mindy has definitely changed. Wednesday night, after a quiet dinner with Doris, I packed. There has been no hugging, kissing, or night since the discovery was made last week. I'm no longer surprised that Doris is emotionless. I left an hour earlier than usual on Thursday morning, long before Doris woke up. During the drive to the airport, it occurred to me that I might never sleep in this house again. While waiting to board, Doris called. You left before I woke up? Early flight this time? No, I had to stop by the office. What are your plans for the day? I work until 4 o'clock and then nothing. I'll probably watch recorded shows. Are you still coming back on the night flight? Yes, they're starting to board. See you later. I pressed the end call button without waiting for her last words. This week, I registered for a new phone. I was going to cancel our phone bills as soon as the paperwork was served. I used the airport wait time and flight time to copy everything from the old phone to the new one. It's so easy now. Just keep them together and choose a few items to transfer everything. At headquarters, things went much better than I expected. I was put on indefinite academic leave. If I return to work, I will retain my seniority and rights to pension savings. For the reason explained, they did so immediately. I offered to mentor my successor if they wanted. I was on pins and needles waiting for the detective's report. At 6, I called Doris. Hey Buck, how was your day? Very good. What's new at home? Not much, really. Boring day. When do you need to be at the airport? I'm heading to dinner with colleagues and then straight to the airport from there. Same procedure, different month. What are you going to do tonight? Just eat the leftovers and watch my TV shows. Well, have a good time. You know I love you. We'll talk later. I love you too. Since I was no longer working, I didn't go to dinner with my colleagues. I stopped and ate some healthy fast food. The first message from the detective came while I was eating my salad. The target is on the move. So much for I love you. I called my home phone and left a message. What's happening tonight? I called Doris' cell phone, but it went to voicemail. What's interesting going on tonight? After dinner, I headed to the airport. I walked around the boarding gate restlessly, full of anxiety. I desperately wanted to know if I would have a wife or a new life. My text signal rang almost simultaneously with the call from Doris. I left the call unanswered. The text was from the detective. Target failed. I wasn't listening to Doris' voicemail when I received her text. Buck, please don't do this. I haven't cheated on you yet. It's perfect. More. This is why I'm getting a divorce. I took a photo of the text with my new phone, then called and canceled our cell phone bill. I also canceled our cable TV. This effectively removed our home Wi-Fi. The private investigator sent a video to my email with today's events. The first part of the video shows Doris leaving the house in her slinky blue dress with matching heels. Now everything becomes clear. Her first stop was a pharmacy, then she went to a hotel near the hospital. After a short wait, she was greeted in the lobby by a man who was 10 years younger than her. Drinks and dinner with touching and caressing hands. Several dances with freedoms allowed and accepted. They gathered their coats and headed to the elevators. As soon as they reached the door of their room and the man inserted his keycard, my man approached. Doris Eckerman, you have been served with a subpoena. Mr. Bennett, you will be served with a claim for alienation of affection. If you are married, your wife will receive copies of my report along with photographs and videos. I hope you have a pleasant evening. Doris tore open the envelope while the man stood there looking stunned. When Doris realized what was in the envelope, she collapsed to the floor. I've also included the full texts of the conversations from the kitchen. Doris was screaming something, but I couldn't make it out. The video ended. I used my new phone to call my son and tell him my new number. I informed him that I was divorcing his mother due to her infidelity. I asked him to keep my new number secret as I didn't want anyone else to know it. He reluctantly agreed. My flight home gave me the time I needed to lower my blood pressure. It really takes over your body. I didn't expect to be met at the airport. As I entered the arrivals area, I heard my name. Doris ran up to me. I dodged her attempt to hug me. She no longer had her blue outfit on. Buck, please, I love you. Don't do this. Can we talk about this? What? I don't even deserve a blue dress and heels? I guess you save those for your lovers. I'm sorry, Buck. It's not like that. I shouldn't have changed. I shouldn't have worn this. I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry I shouldn't have. Doris, this is not the time or place to talk. Go home. I'm going home too. Are you going straight home, or do you need to stop somewhere for more experiences? Buck, I'm sorry. I'm going straight home. Again, I had to push away her attempt to hug and kiss me. I didn't lie. I was heading to my house. This will be my new long-term home. Took me a lot more whiskey to calm down. My son woke me up around 6 a.m. Dad. Mom is crazy. Just call her. Don't drag me into this. Okay, Jason. Sorry about that, son. Talk to you soon. I used the hidden number feature to call Doris at home. Our old mobile phones were turned off. Hello, Doris. This is Buck. Get a lawyer and have him contact my lawyer. Damn you, Buck. I was worried that something had happened to you. It's a little late to worry about me, Doris. I'm tired of being taken for granted. Get a lawyer, and I hung up. It's very strange to wake up without work. I walked a few blocks to the cafe. The weekday special was perfect for me. After breakfast, I told my lawyer and the private investigator my new phone number and address. My lawyer called shortly after noon to tell me that the bank and brokerage accounts had been frozen. She advised me to drop the alienation of affection claim because we had no evidence of any intimate activity. The private detective sent an additional letter. The man involved was single, although he lived with his girlfriend. Perhaps I will take revenge, but now it doesn't matter to me. They work together, so I could cause problems at the hospital if Doris objected to the divorce. We will both need cash for ongoing expenses, so the lawyers will have to negotiate a fair amount and frequency for these payments. I filed a claim to split the costs of the house and my current residence. If Doris wants to move out of the house, we can sell it faster. I will pay for my place, and she will pay for her living expenses. My suit based on treason will not last. I did it for shock effect. I spent my first day of freedom crossing items off my list. My friends were shocked but supported me. My mother, the eternal optimist, was for reconciliation. I told her I would do it as soon as she grew wings. With a low-paying job, no cash, and a low-limit credit card, Doris faced a difficult time. I called to talk to Jason, but Kelly answered. How is my beloved daughter-in-law? Sweet, really sweet. Not only am I your favorite, but I'm also the one you hate the most. Do you have any idea how many times Doris called? She's acting incoherent, sometimes screaming, sometimes crying. Now you are truly my favorite. I am glad that she is suffering. This is just a small part of what she put me through. I don't think I want to know, but I'm not an idiot. Is she having an affair? Not only are you beautiful, but you're also smart. My detective ambushed them last night. I'm a little concerned about letting her sit with Jared. I can't make that decision for you. I'd love to meet you for dinner, not necessarily tonight, but I have a full calendar right now. I'll talk to Jason. Is this a good number to call you back? Yes, it is. Please don't share it with anyone. Talk to you soon. Love to everyone. Love you too, Dad. Goodbye. Friday night was emotionally draining. The impact of everything that had happened had taken its toll. I tried to solve my problems with a little alcohol and a lot of painkillers. It was well after midnight when I finally found sleep. Breakfast on Saturday morning with Jason, Kelly, and Jared was enjoyable. They started ignoring some of Doris' calls. After breakfast, I stopped by our old house. I couldn't tell if Doris' car was in the garage, so I parked up the street and looked through the window on the side of the garage. She was home, so I decided to try again later. I might have to buy a clean shirt if I can't get inside soon. Hey Jason, long time no see. Huh? Can you take your mom out or meet her? I need to stop by and grab a few things. Of course, Dad. I'll call you back and tell you. About 10 minutes later, she'll meet us for lunch at noon. After I saw that Doris had left, I entered and began a full search of the house. I left a note, came by to talk. Guess you're getting more impressions. I moved my motorcycle to a friend's house a few blocks away. I walked back and filled my car, which was full when I left the house. I stopped at an inexpensive clothing store and stocked up on snacks. I bought a thank you card that I addressed to Mindy and included copies of the text from the kitchen notes. Mindy, thanks for trying. Bach. I spent Saturday afternoon and most of Sunday watching the Parma races. I need a hobby because retirement is too boring, and this was just my first day off. I bought the Sunday newspaper and looked at the advertisements for volunteer opportunities. On Sunday, I sat in a parimutuel betting section next to Martin, a retired insurance agent who was an avid horse gambler. He got me interested in betting. He proudly announced his selection and won good money in bets that day. I repeated several of his bets, won several times, lost several times, and ended the day with $20 in the black. Quite cheap entertainment for today. Monday morning, I filled out the paperwork to become a volunteer at an animal shelter. My lawyer called to set up a meeting with me, Doris, and her lawyer. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday at 1,600 hours. Otherwise, I spent about 5 hours with Martin. He lost several large bets but still managed to make a small profit. I lost about $10, still pretty cheap fun. On Wednesday, I started working at an animal shelter. I had a 4-hour shift. The love from these little creatures came at just the right time in my life. After my shift on Thursday, I settled into the conference room. Doris did her best to look presentable. Her lawyer and my lawyer showed us their grimaces. Quarrels began. Doris and I sat in silence while the lawyers argued. I deliberately sat on the same side of the table as Doris so that we would not look at each other. We will not accept a plea based on charges of treason. Mrs. Ackerman, what did you buy at the pharmacy the night you were served with the summons? Don't answer that. It should be changed to irreconcilable differences. We'll take that into account. Anything else? You didn't include child support. Good point. Since Mrs. Ackerman is the only one working, I proposed that Mr. Ackerman receive 25% of her net earnings. Doris exploded. No way. He has a great job. A few weeks off won't change that. Mr. Ackerman did a great job. He is currently unemployed, and that was before Mrs. Ackerman received the subpoena. We propose to remove the mention of infidelity and agree to no alimony from both parties if this agreement is filed with prejudice. Can I have a few minutes with Mrs. Ackerman? We left the conference room. I watched Doris twist and turn in her chair. She needed a few wipes before we were called back. We have several conditions. First, if Mr. Ackerman finds gainful employment within the next 12 months, the issue of child support will be reconsidered. We want to eliminate the request to share the cost of Mr. Ackerman's home. He is always welcome in his home. The home will be immediately offered for sale, and upon sale, the proceeds will be divided 60-40 in favor of Mrs. Ackerman. We request that the savings account be divided equally and paid immediately. Can I have a few minutes with Mr. Ackerman? They left the conference room. I quickly calculated the cost of the house. We had about $300,000 in net worth. If it comes to me, I can refuse $30,000 if I agree. We decided to accept the offer with conditions. We agree with this with one exception. Until the house is sold, Mrs. Ackerman will bear all expenses for the house. If the house does not sell within 6 months, it will be put up for auction. After a few whispered comments, an agreement was reached. As I was about to leave, Doris asked, "Buck, would you stay and talk to me?" "Doris, as soon as the documents are signed and sent, I will meet with you." I should have felt great that everything had gone so well, but I sat alone in my room, sipping whiskey in the dark. I thought about how many people would change their minds about marriage. Most of us develop our personalities over time for many different reasons, ranging from parenting styles to life experiences. Some people believe that we never change throughout life, or in other words, we are born a certain way and simply become more evolved as we live. They believe that human nature does not change. According to them, some of us are just born with certain tendencies and spend most of our lives becoming more pronounced versions of ourselves. They argue that even those with negative tendencies can show restraint in certain situations, such as at work, when they are in the presence of people who control their destiny. They pretend to be civilized until they gain control, and then their natural tendencies take over again. Another theory is based not on nature, but on nurture or experience. This theory says that we are not born with fixed traits, but that people or experiences shape us throughout our time here. Essentially, life trains us to be who we are. There are many versions of both of these theories, but if I had to choose, I'd be hard-pressed to do so. I believe that each of us is born with both sets of genes, and these traits can be activated or deactivated due to extremely stressful events in our lives. I also believe that these traits may appeal to some people and not others. After you hear my story, you might feel the same way. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm 5 feet 10 inches tall, have brown hair and brown eyes, and I am quite reserved by nature. I generally try to get along with people. I don't think I've had a fist fight since I left elementary school. On the other hand, I have been doing martial arts and boxing since I was 8 years old. I came home from 3rd grade with a bleeding nose, and my dad, an old army guy, signed me up for karate classes. Of course, I still wasn't any stronger, and the big guys still sometimes walked away with my lunch money, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Knowing how to fight and probably kick their asses didn't make me a bully, it just gave me a choice. I could either fight them and probably hurt them, or I could just give them the 50 cents and eat later without all the trouble that fighting would bring. I guess I've just never been the alpha male type. I married Rhonda a couple of years after I graduated from college, and things were going great for us. I love her, And she loves me. We have a 2-year-old daughter, a wonderful home, and a wonderful life. Rhonda is a little chubby, but I have fallen in love with her heart. I think it was my character that attracted her to me. Rhonda dated a couple of guys who were pretty rough. Although she is not fat, Rhonda treated herself the same way they say fat girls do. She thought that she would have to try harder and lower her standards to get a guy. Some of the guys she dated manipulated her quite easily and didn't treat her the way she deserved. When we met, it was great for both of us. She knew I wouldn't force her to do anything she didn't want, intimacy or otherwise. I am still very reserved and calm, so our arguments are rare. I tend to look at the big picture and try to think about the other person's point of view as well as my own. I try to avoid conflicts, especially in cases where they are not necessary. After she dated some rough guys, Rhonda's parents fell in love with me. So when we got married, everyone was happy. Our two families merged into one big one with Rhonda and me at the center. When our daughter Haley was born 2 years ago, it was as if the world, or at least our piece of the world, tilted on its axis and Haley became the sun. Rhonda quit her job and stayed home to take care of Haley. Honestly, I was making enough money that we both didn't have to work and Rhonda was actually tired of working. She suggested staying at home. I just assumed that with both of us working, we would be able to put more money into our savings and investments. I, of course, lost this argument and Rhonda became a housewife while I became the sole breadwinner. This is how most of our cases went. I was not the kind of husband who liked to rage. Rhonda's father often told me that I was a coward, but he still loved me. I'm glad my girl married you and not those jerks she used to date, he often said. In fact, most people who know us don't think the word no is in my vocabulary. Everyone is absolutely confident that Haley will have me wrapped around her finger and take control of the house by the time she's 5 or 6. It didn't bother me because my world revolved around Rhonda and Haley. There was nothing I wouldn't do for any of them. I think there were times when I should have been more assertive, but at the end of the day, their happiness made me happy. On the days when I had a really hard day at work and just wanted to go home, relax on my porch, have a beer, and enjoy a quiet dinner, I would come home to find that Rhonda had gathered a group of people for a chat. As soon as I crossed the threshold, she would immediately hand me Haley. I took it in stride. I tried to see it from her point of view. She took care of Haley all day, and we did it together, so I had to spend time taking care of her too. Rhonda also worked at home all day, making a home for all of us, so she never had the opportunity to go out or interact with adults the way she did when she worked. I agreed with this, but I never really complained about much. Maybe, in some ways, I was a coward. I can break boards with my bare hands or feet. I weigh 170 pounds and lift 250, but I'm still a coward. I just don't have the Neanderthal gene. I probably would have gotten through life without ever getting angry if it weren't for one phone call. I almost never use our home phone. I use it so rarely that I don't know the number. Even when Rhonda calls me, my iPhone doesn't show a number. It just shows home. So that day, when my phone was uncharged and I needed to call a mechanic because my Taurus was acting strange again, my world changed when I picked up the phone. I heard voices. Normally, I would have hung up immediately, but I heard Rhonda laughing, and it sounded like she was talking about me. No, I don't think he even noticed we weren't there. She laughed. Don't get me wrong, baby. I love Ryan and always will, but I don't think he would say anything if he caught us having a night. He would probably just say sorry and leave the room. Yes, said the man, whose voice I recognized but couldn't place. He's so cute he'd probably offer to spread your legs so I could take you. Oh, Jim, stop exaggerating. Rhonda laughed. Besides, your wife is no better. Just do what I tell her, Jim said, if she knows what's good for her. But damn, at least we're not doing this in her house. Ryan, I just don't know about him. Hey, while we're on the subject, my boss is a member of the same Masonic lodge as your father. Is it Ryan or Puppet too? Yeah, my dad got him into it a few years ago. They remind me of the damn Flintstones with their funny hats and all these rituals. They are like a loyal troop of water buffalo. Well, I want to be a water buffalo, said Jim. If I join their lodge, I will have more time to communicate with my boss after work. This will give me a better chance in a few months when it comes time for a promotion. I'll start dropping hints about this to Ryan, Rhonda said. As long as you make me happy, I'll keep you satisfied. If it makes you happy, Jim said. But if you love Ryan so damn much, why do you need me? Because I'm bored, Rhonda said. I'm stuck at home with the baby all day. Ryan loves me and I love him, but with you, I can play a different role. I can be someone else. I don't know how long this will last. Maybe I will be bored with you too. I'd drop you like a hot rock if I even thought Ryan would find out about us. But as long as he doesn't know anything, we're in. I sat and held the phone for several minutes after they hung up. I heard Rhonda walking through the house and quickly went outside. I walked around the house and came back through the front door as if I wasn't there. Hey, baby. She smiled as I walked in. She came up to me and leaned in for a kiss. I studied her face. There was no sign of the lies or disrespect she felt for me. I stood there perhaps too long before I turned away from her. What happened, dear? She asked. Did you have a bad day at work? Work was going well, I said. The tourists will have to go into the shop again. Can I use your car? Of course, baby, she said. But it's just a car. They break. Get used to it. That's not the reason you don't kiss me when you come in. I've been thinking about you all day. I look forward to our time together. Sorry, I said and walked away looking for her keys. Where are you going? She asked. I'm going to the dojo, I said. She simply smiled. When I really needed to get something out of my system, I would often go to a local karate school run by a friend of ours. Rhonda laughed about it because she had never seen me hit a person. Sometimes she saw me doing katas or breaking boards, but my wife, like everyone else, was sure that I would not say a word even if my mouth was full. I think she didn't believe I was capable of actually hitting someone, even in anger. I was more of a talker than a fighter. She was right. That night I beat the poor punching bag. I tried to drive out the anger and pain with blows, but I couldn't do it. My anger and pain settled like a ball of fire in the pit of my stomach. Even when I was so tired that I couldn't lift my arms anymore, I couldn't let it go. This was something new for me. I changed. I knew I wasn't going to go home and confront Rhonda, but I started to think about her differently from that moment on. For the first time since I first saw her, I didn't think of Rhonda as one of my own. In fact, I didn't want her anymore, even though I've heard that love doesn't disappear so quickly. I didn't love her anymore. I was sure of it. I knew something had to change because I was really angry. I wanted Rhonda to experience the same pain and suffering that I did. I knew I had to be smart about this. I had to plan and think about what I wanted to do. I started planning in my mind what I wanted to say to her. I needed to do it in a way that would affect her as much as possible. I am a strong person, I thought, both mentally and physically. I am strong. I may not be able to lift my arms right now, but I am strong. I gathered my strength and pulled myself together. Martial arts is great for this kind of thing. They teach you to concentrate. With the possible exception of a firmer expression on my lips, I was able to hide my feelings to such an extent that my new feelings did not show. I might look calm on the outside, but on the inside, I wasn't. I screamed inside myself, feeling only rage and pain. I had so many questions that I needed answers to. On my way home, I asked Siri to help me. For those who don't know, Siri is the personal assistant on the iPhone. I simply told Siri to find me a private investigator, and my phone screen showed 3 of them in my area. I chose a guy who was on his way home. I don't know what I expected. I guess I wanted to see Humphrey Bogart or Robert Mitchum. Hell, I'd settle for Columbo or even Barnaby Jones. I expected to see a seasoned veteran with plenty of life experience underneath his rumpled suit. I wanted someone with enough life experience who had already seen and experienced everything. What I got was a 20-something-year-old with a belly and 3 days of stubble reading a video game magazine. He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much Modern Warfare 3. What do you need? He asked. I explained the situation to him, and he grabbed a worn leather jacket from the rack next to the Xbox. Where are we going? I asked as he stood at the door. To your house, he said. Depending on whether you want a divorce and how you want to file for it, you may need proof. So we will have to install several cameras and microphones throughout the house. Even if you don't want a divorce, you will need some kind of proof to confront her. This way, she won't be able to tell you some ridiculous story about how you imagine it all. And in the very unlikely possibility that you don't even want to confront her now, You may need to have proof in the future just in case. How many cases like this have you seen? I asked. The look on his face and his silent shake of his head said it all. At least 100 or so, he said quietly. I was forced to immediately change my mind about him. How long have you been in this business? I asked. I thought he was barely 20. Now it suddenly dawned on me that maybe he was one of those guys like Dick Clark who just looked young. Perhaps I had had my seasoned veteran after all. 3 years, he said. I'm 25. Hearing his words didn't make me feel any better. In fact, the news that the end of my idyllic life and marriage was just a statistic depressed me even more. We went to my house and he followed me in his car. When we arrived home, Rhonda came out to meet him. I introduced him as the guy from the car dealership. She smiled and continued her business. We installed cameras with microscopic holes throughout the house, including our bedroom. We also added a small device to the phone lines that allowed us to monitor all phone calls. After I walked him to the door, I immediately went to the computer to listen to the call she was currently making. Yeah, he brought some guy from the car dealership with him, she said. We both know they're not going to respect his warranty. They'll make him pay for the repairs. He's my little man, what can I say? I love him, but he'll never be a tough guy. After a while, she came into the bedroom. She rolled over and hugged me, starting to kiss me. I pushed her away from me. After a few minutes, I felt her fingers crawling up my leg. I looked at her and saw her smiling. I'm not in the mood, I told her. She looked shocked. Since when do you have to be in the mood? She asked. Damn it, Ryan, it's just a car. It's not even that good a car. Forget it then. She rolled to the other side of the bed. Over the next few days, she stuck to her usual routine. It seemed like Jim came to visit her every day. Listening to their phone calls and watching them whenever I could stand it helped me gain strength for what I needed to do. It was funny because ever since I found out about her and started distancing myself from her, she seemed to be taking it out on poor old Jim. In fact, yesterday he received nothing at all. They had a fight. Damn it, Jim. She snapped at him. I don't like this. You don't even know what you're doing. I'll give you a hint. I need to get excited first. I thought you liked it hard and fast, he said. I like it from time to time, she replied sharply. But we've always done it this way, he complained. This is what we do together. If I wanted to make love to someone, it would be someone I love. Damn, that's why I come to you and not my damn wife. What's your problem? I don't know, she said. Ryan hasn't touched me in a week. Ever since his damn car broke down, he's been acting weird. All the things he used to do for me, he's skipping. He seems to blame me for the car. You're still going to ask him to sponsor me to join the lodge, aren't you? Asked Jim. Well, yes, said Rhonda. But I was waiting for a better time. It's probably not a good idea to ask him to do this when he's not in the best mood. Yesterday he came home, played with the baby, went for a run, and then played with the baby again until she fell asleep. When he came back, we didn't even talk. Maybe when he fixes the damn car, he'll feel better, Jim said. When should they finish with it? I didn't even ask him, Rhonda said. I'll ask today. Jim, I really miss him. It's not just the intim, although I miss that too. It's all the little things like him coming home and massaging my shoulders or rubbing my legs. It seems like an eternity since we just sat and watched TV together or sat on our porch and talked. Blah, 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 Jim said. I really don't care about your marriage. Are we going to have a night or not? Or not, Rhonda said angrily. Call me when you pull your head out of your fifth place. When I got home that night, Rhonda asked me about the car. She cooked all my favorite dishes for dinner and walked around the house in a very low-cut blouse and a very short skirt. Under normal circumstances, I would be delighted. But in this case, I knew she was just horny because she had a fight with her boyfriend. Ryan, honey, how's the repair going on your car? She asked. Coming, I said. Maybe you should be a little more assertive with them and stop letting everyone push you around. She said. I need my car too, you know. I walked over to the table and took my car keys. I took Rhonda's car keys off the key fob and placed them in her hand, then sat back at the table to eat. Ryan, that's not what I meant, she said. You're upset and all this is bothering you. So it's bothering me too. I love you, Ryan. Yes, that's what you say, I thought. You love me so much that you would do anything for me except stay faithful. You love me so much that you have an intimate with another man in our house, in our bed where we sleep. I thought about it, but as always, I didn't say anything. I just screamed inside myself again. She must have seen my rage in my eyes. I thought I was strong. I know the words I need to say. Freezing in place, I let the moment slip away. Her eyes widened when, instead of responding to her words, I simply moved away from the table, leaving my dinner untouched. "Ryan," she called as I walked away. I didn't answer. I just went to look at my sleeping daughter. I love this little girl more than life itself. If it weren't for her, I probably would have just left Rhonda the first day I found out about her in gym. I closed the door behind me and walked through the house. I grabbed my gym bag and went outside. "Ryan, where are you going?" Rhonda asked. Without a word or even turning to her, I simply picked up my gym bag. "Ryan, the gym is a mile away." "How do you get there?" she asked. "I can handle it," I replied. When I returned home, it was already after midnight. While I was in the gym, beating another punching bag, I made a decision. It's time to end this farce called my marriage. I had all the evidence I needed to get Rhonda to give me what I wanted. The problem was my daughter. If I got custody, I would have to arrange childcare and visitation and all that. I wanted everything to be ready when we filed for divorce. There was also the problem of confronting Rhonda and handing her the papers. My parents loved Rhonda and her parents loved me. This would be a terrible blow for both families. "Ryan," Rhonda called as I walked up the stairs. "You've been away from home for so long." I didn't answer. I just went to the bathroom to take a shower. As I let the warm water flow over me, the shower door opened. Rhonda came into my shower and hugged me. "Rhonda," I said in a very indifferent tone. "Everything hurts." I tried to keep my voice as neutral as possible. I didn't want to show any anger, and at the same time, I was tired of her hurting me. I wondered if she'd ever know how painful it is to sit and listen to a tape of a woman who supposedly loves you calling you a coward while talking to another man. I wondered if she knew how much it hurts to be constantly put down by being called my little man or other similar expressions. "Ryan, it's been 2 weeks now," she retorted angrily. "What have I done?" she asked. "I didn't break your car. It wasn't me, Ryan." She walked out of the bathroom, still dripping water. I could hear her crying as I calmly dried myself off and went downstairs to sleep on the couch. I think she expected me to come into the bedroom and try to comfort her. I mean, that's how I've always reacted in situations like this. This was how I always did it before. Perhaps this was the beginning of change. The next morning, I woke up early to get to work on time. I hadn't really done anything about my car in the last 2 weeks. There was no need because there was nothing really wrong with it. All it needed was maintenance, which I did the next day. I just kept letting Rhonda think there was a problem with the car because I needed a reason to act differently than usual. I decided to just take the car to the dealership to get something done, maybe change the oil or rotate the tires or something so I wouldn't have to explain anything about the damn car. I told my secretary that I had a problem that needed to be solved and drove to the Ford dealership. While I was waiting for the service technician to speak to me, I looked around. "You're driving a Taurus, aren't you?" he said after a few minutes. "They're great cars. They're reliable, easy to handle, and they'll never give you any problems. How long have you been driving this?" "More than 10 years, right?" I'm confused. When he described my car, he unknowingly described me reliable, unpretentious, never creating problems. It was me. I went to work every damn day and provided for my daughter and that cheating wife. I never asked for anything and always did what was expected of me, even when she was throwing herself at some scoundrel ex-colleague. Reliable and unpretentious also meant inconspicuous. I could sit here and scream and beg for her to stop forever, and it would never matter because she wouldn't notice or care what she was doing to me or to us. To hell with us. In fact, we no longer existed. There was no more us, not for a moment, not a second more. The words came out of me before I even realized what I was saying. "I need a salesman," I said. "I'll get someone for you," he said, and brought the seller. I took it for a test drive as if I was in a trance. As I drove through the streets, I noticed that almost everyone I passed noticed me. This is exactly what I wanted. On the way back to the dealership, I took out my phone and called the lawyer I had hired. I told him he needed to file for divorce today. They were ready last week, but I didn't want to serve them. I told him to go ahead and give them to Rhonda and Jim. I told him that, with any luck, he could catch them together at my house in about an hour. My second call, as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, was to my insurance agent. I updated my insurance policy to include a new car. I needed to get insurance quickly because it was now my car. I had no intention of returning it. When I sat down with the salesperson, I tried to keep a neutral expression. I can offer you a deal on the interest rate, he said. How much do you need as a down payment? I asked. Well, we have to, he began. Listen, I said, I just need a number. My insurance agent called the dealership while we were signing the paperwork. He faxed proof of insurance, and I pulled out of the parking lot. The roar of the engine was music to my ears. I smiled at a couple of women as I stopped next to them at a traffic light. This was another change. I would never have done this before. When I pulled into my driveway, I noticed that the door to my house was open. My timing was not very good. I expected Rhonda to be home, but I didn't think Jim would still be there. All I heard from inside the house was Jim screaming and Rhonda crying. Several of my neighbors came up to me as I got out of the car. It's good that you're home, said my housemate. She and that guy who always comes to visit her have been fighting for a long time. Whose car is this? Mine, I said, smiling. Damn, he said, wait until I tell Ellen you bought a brand new Mustang. She'll be begging you for a ride. You probably shouldn't tell her. Sam, I said, winking at him. You may not get her back. And I'm in the market looking for another woman to match the new car. He simply smiled and nodded at me. As I walked into the house, Rhonda looked terrible. She had cried a lot. She kept turning over the pages of the divorce documents. Both she and Jim looked at me as I walked through the door. Ryan, I don't understand. She cried. I don't want a divorce. We can fix this. It was a mistake. Jim came up to me. Listen, Ryan, why are you including me in your divorce? He asked. I have a wife and 2 children. If you point me out, it will probably ruin my marriage too. My wife has nothing to do with this. Don't you feel sorry for my children? I just looked at him. I was surprisingly calm. Both of them spoke at the same time, blaming each other. I sat down at the kitchen table to think about what I should eat. Let's all sit down like adults and talk about this, Jim said. I'm sure we can resolve this to everyone's satisfaction. Both of them also sat down at the table. They both kept talking, or rather, Jim was talking. Rhonda was crying. Listen, Ryan, Jim started again. I know it looks bad, but there's really nothing here. It happened one time and it was just a night. You see, both me and Rhonda, well, we both like rough intim, and neither you nor my wife support this. You don't because you love Rhonda, but my wife because she's romantic. She's more into flirting and kissing and all that nonsense. So we both had unfulfilled needs. But this one cleaned out our systems. This will not happen again. You understand this, don't you? I didn't say a word. Rhonda took this as a sign that it was her turn to speak. Ryan, you're the only man I love. I don't want a divorce. That's why I've been acting so weird lately, because you haven't been like yourself. Jim started again. Listen, Ryan, you're not the kind of person to act hastily. Be smart. That was all he had time to say. He wrung his hands and complained, but moved on from that to standing over me. His voice took on an almost menacing tone. Old Ryan might have listened to him, but I've changed. I stood up so quickly that neither of them probably realized what had happened until it was too late. The old Ryan would have let the anger build up inside him and would have taken it out later by running outside to relieve the pain or going to the gym to beat up an innocent punching bag. But I've changed. I was no longer the old Ryan. I didn't think, I was just reacting. Even before my legs pushed off to lift me out of the chair, my arm was in motion. I made an open palm strike to Jim's chin. I think my goal was to push him back because I didn't like the way he was looming over me. I probably took it as a threat. I underestimated my timing, my anger, and my strength. I also underestimated Jim's luck. My shot hit the target, his jaw closed with almost enough force to break it. The only thing that saved him from this was his neck snapping back, absorbing most of the force. It still sent him flying backwards and upward, knocking him out of his chair and landing him awkwardly on the floor on his back. Rhonda was shocked that her soft-spoken little man would do something like that, but she was in for an even bigger shock. Jim writhed on the floor, covering his face with both hands, making incomprehensible sounds. Rhonda looked at me and I shrugged. It looks like he bit his tongue off, I said calmly. She jumped over to him while he was still writhing in agony from the pain. Ryan, call an ambulance, she shouted. To hell with it, I said. Jim steeled himself despite the pain and began pointing outward. I'll take him to the ER, she said. On what? I asked calmly. In my car, she said. I paid for this car, I said. He won't get in it. Ryan, she said, pleading, sign the divorce papers and you can take it. No way, she said, picking up the phone. She dialed 911. A few minutes later, an ambulance arrived and took Jim to a nearby clinic. I never left the kitchen. Neither Jim nor his injuries concerned me. After the ambulance left, Rhonda returned to the house. She spent a few minutes talking with some neighbors. Whose Mustang is in the driveway? She asked. Mine, I said.